I sent her a text too.
All right.
Okay, well, we got to get it started because we're live streaming now and it's live so that if I lose power, it'll still keep going without me. Hi, I'm Paul Sugarman with the Instant Shakespeare Company, and tonight we're reading the reign of King Edward III. So this is so we do these Zoom readings unrehearsed. And we've got people just sort of taking on new parts. Eleanor, if you looked at the email that has what parts Jackie has, those are the ones. And it's Artois is the important one who's in the first scene. So, and I think maybe we'll send the chat, but yeah, so why don't we just, let me just get you guys introduced and you can get started. And let's see, Eleanor, could you read the stage directions?
Or
we could do without the stage directions.
I'll read the stage directions.
Okay. All right. So let me just okay, so let's introduce yourselves and let them know what roles you're playing. Geraldine.
Okay, hi. I'm Geraldine Sackler, and I'm Audley and Douglas, and a Frenchman, first Frenchman, and a mariner, and then I'm Audley again.
All right, and Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew Parks, and I'm playing Prince Edward, the Black Prince.
Okay, and Kitty.
I'm Kitty Chen. I'm playing Warwick, Polonian captain, and Gauvin de Grasse in third act, and Salisbury in fourth and part of the fifth, and the French captain in 4.
Okay, and Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Finger. I am reading the roles of Darby, Messenger 2, Prince Philip, and First Citizen.
And Sri.
Hi, I'm Sri Hari, and I'll be playing the part of a messenger in Act 1, King John, and a Frenchman in the third act, and again, King John and a herald in the fourth and fifth acts.
Okay, thank you. And Barbara.
Hi, I'm Barbara Kadish. I'm playing the Countess of Salisbury, Bohemia, second citizen, Villiers, and the first esquire.
Okay, and Michael.
Michael, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Michael, at the moment.
Okay, I'm Michael E. Gardner, and I'm playing a bunch of people. If I say their names wrong, I'm playing Duke of Lorraine, named after Quiche Lorraine. I'm playing Sir William Montague, and I'm playing, what's his name, Lodovick, and a few other folks beside them.
Okay.
Bunch of warriors.
Yep, and Eleanor.
I'm playing Artois and King David and Prince Charles and a French woman and the second herald and Queen Philippa.
Okay.
I'm Eleanor Elizabeth Foreman.
All righty. And Angus.
Hi, Angus Hepburn. I'm in London. It's currently coming up to 1:45 in the morning here. So
Wow.
Bear with me if I fall asleep on you all. And I'm reading King Edward.
London Calling.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's everybody's, right? Okay, all righty. Well, so on with the show.
Hold one second. What happened to my copy of the script? I thought I had it a moment ago. I thought I had downloaded it.
Everybody remember that if you're not in a scene and you're not speaking, please kill your video.
Right, thank you for reminding me.
Otherwise, everybody watching is going to get very confused.
Sorry about that. I got a call from my boss that I guess you all heard.
No, we didn't actually. No, we
We'd
didn't.
like
Okay,
to.
It didn't come
cool.
through. You're all right.
All right.
Wait a minute.
All right.
So we're ready to go. Act 1, Scene 1. Enter King Edward, Derby, Prince Edward, Audley, and Artois. Robert of Artois, banished though thou be from France, thy native country, yet with us thou shalt retain as great a seigneury, for we create the Earl of Richmond here. And now go forwards with our pedigree. Who next succeeded Philip of Bue?
3 sons of his, which all successfully did sit upon their father's regal throne, yet died and left no issue of their loins.
But was my mother sister unto those?
She was, my lord, and only Isabel was all the daughters that this Philip had, whom afterward your father took to wife, and from the fragrant garden of her womb, your gracious self, the flower of Europe, so derived is inheritor to France, but not the rancor of rebellious minds. When thus the lineage of Bue without the French obscured your mother's privilege, and though she were the next of blood, proclaimed John of the house of Valois now their king. The reason was, they say, the realm of France, replete with princes of great parentage, ought not admit a governor to rule, except he be descended of the male. And that's the special ground of their contempt, wherewith they study to exclude your grace.
But shall they find that forged ground of theirs to be but dusty heaps of brittle sand?
Perhaps it will be thought a heinous thing that I, a Frenchman, should discover this. But heaven I call to record of my vows, it is not hate, nor any private wrong, but love unto my country, and the right provokes my tongue thus lavish in report. You are the lineal watchman of our peace, and John of Valois in direct climes. What then should subjects but embrace their king? Wherein may our duty more be seen than straying to rebate a tyrant's pride and place the true shepherd of our commonwealth?
This counsel, Artois, like the fruitful showers, hath added growth unto my dignity. And by the fiery vigor of thy words, hot courage is engendered in my breast, which heretofore was racked in ignorance, but now doth mount with golden wings of fame, and will approve fair Isabel's descent, able to yoke their stubborn necks with steel that spurn against my sovereignty in France. A messenger, Lord Audley, know from whence?
The Duke of Lorraine, having crossed the seas, entreats he may have conference with your highness.
Admit him, lords, that we may hear the news. Say, Duke of Lorraine, wherefore art thou come?
The most renowned Prince King John of France doth greet thee, Edward, and by his commands, that for so much as by his liberal gift the Gaia dukedom is entailed to thee, thou do him lowly homage for the same. And for that purpose, here I summon thee, repair to France within these 40 days, that there, according as the custom is, thou mayest be sworn true liegeman to our king. Or else thy title in that province dies, and he himself will possess the place.
See how occasion laughs me in the face. No sooner minded to prepare for France, but straight I am invited, nay, with threats, upon a penalty enjoined to come. 'Twere but a childish part to say him nay. Lorraine, return this answer to thy lord. I mean to visit him as he requests, but how? Not servilely disposed to bend, but like a conqueror to make him bow. His lame, unpolished shifts are come to light. and truth hath pulled the vizard from his face that set a glass upon his arrogance. Dare he command a fealty in me, tell him the crown that he usurps is mine, and where he sets his foot he ought to kneel. 'Tis not a petty dukedom that I claim, but all the whole dominions of the realm, which, if with grudging he refuse to yield, I'll take away those borrowed plumes of his and send him naked to the wilderness.
Then, Edward, here, in spite of all thy lords, I do pronounce defiance to thy face.
Defiance, Frenchman, we rebound it back, even to the bottom of thy master's throat. And be it spoke with reverence of the king, my gracious father, and these other lords, I hold thy message but as scurrilous, and him that sent thee like the lazy drone crept up by stealth unto the eagle's nest, from whence we'll shake him with so rough a storm as others shall be warned by his harm.
Bid him leave of the lion's case he wears, lest meeting with a lion in the field, he chanced to tear him piecemeal for his pride.
Artois.
Eleanor?
Page
5.
5. Second last speech.
soundest counsel I can give his grace is to surrender ere he be constrained. A voluntary mischief has less scorn than when reproach with violence is borne.
Regenerate traitor! Viper to the place where thou wast fostered in thy infancy! Bearest thou a part of this conspiracy?
Lorraine, behold the sharpness of this steel. Fervent desire that sits against thy heart, my heart, is far more thorny pricking than this blade, that with the nightingale I shall be scared, as oft as I dispose myself to rest, until my colours be displayed in France. This is thy final answer. So be gone.
It is not that, nor any English brave afflicts me so as doth his poison view, that is most false, should most of all be true.
Now, Lord, our fleeting bark is under sail. Our gage is thrown, and war is soon begun, but not so quickly brought unto an end. Oh, but wherefore comes Sir William Montague? How stands the league between the Scot and us?
Cracked and dissevered, my renowned lord. The treacherous king no sooner was informed of your withdrawing of your army back, but straightforward, forgetting of his former oath, he made invasion on the bordering towns. Barwick is won, Newcastle spoiled and lost, and now the tyrant hath begirt with siege the castle of Roxborough, where enclosed the Countess Salisbury is like to perish.
That is thy daughter, Warwick, is it not? Whose husband hath in Brittany served so long about the planning of Lord Montague, Mountford, therefore?
It is, my lord.
Ignoble David, hast thou none to grieve but silly ladies with thy threatening arms? But I will make you shrink your snaily horns. First, therefore, Audley, this shall be thy charge. Go levy footmen for our wars in France, and Ned, take muster of our men at arms. In every shire elect a several band, let them be soldiers of a lusty spirit, such as dread nothing but dishonour's blot. Be wary, therefore, since we do commence a famous war, and with so mighty a nation. Derby, be thou ambassador for us, unto our father-in-law, the Earl of Hainault. Make him acquainted with our enterprise, and likewise will him with our own allies that are in Flanders to solicit to the Emperor of Almaine in our name. Myself, whilst you are jointly thus employed, will with these forces that I have at hand march, and once more repulse the traitorous Scot. But sirs, be resolute. We shall have wars on every side. And Ned, thou must begin now to forget thy study and thy books, and you are thy shoulders to an armorer's weight.
As cheerful sounding to my youthful spleen, this tumult is of war's increasing broils, as at the coronation of a king the joyful clamors of the people are, when Ave Caesar they pronounce aloud. Within this school of honor I shall learn either to sacrifice my foes to death, or in a rightful quarrel spend my breath. Then cheerfully forward each a several way, in great affairs 'tis not to use delay.
Alas, how much in vain my poor eyes gaze for succor that my sovereign should send. Ah, cousin Montague, I feel there wants the lively spirit sharply to solicit with venom and suit the king in my behalf. Let us not tell him what a grief it is to be the scornful captive to a Scot, either to be wooed with broad untuneful oaths, or forced by rough insulting barbarisms. Let us not tell him, if he here prevails, how much they will deride us in the north, and in their willful uncivil skipping gigs, brave forth with their conquests and our overthrow, even in the barren, bleak, and fruitless air. Ah, I must withdraw. The everlasting foe comes to the wall. I'll closely step aside and list their babble blunt and full of pride.
My lord of Lorraine, to our brother of France, commend us as the man in Christendom that we must reverence and entirely love. Touching your embassy, return and say that we with England will not enter parley, nor never make fair weather or take truce, but burn their neighbor towns, and so persist with eager rods beyond their city York, and never shall our body riders ride, nor rust in canker have the time to eat their light-born snaffles, nor their nimble spur, nor lay aside their jacks of gimmeled mail, nor hang their staves of grained Scottish ash in peaceful wise upon their city walls, nor from their button-tawny leathern belts dismiss their biting whinyards, till your king cry out, enough, spare England now for pity. Farewell, and tell him that you leave us here before this castle. Say you came from us, even when we had that yielded to our hands.
I take my leave, and fairly will return your acceptable greeting to my king.
Now, Douglas, to our former task again, for the division of this certain spoil.
My liege, I crave the lady and no more.
Nay, soft ye, sir. First I must make my choice, and first I do bespeak her for myself.
Why then, my liege, let me enjoy her jewels.
Those are her own, still liable to her, and who inherits her hath those withal.
My liege, as we were picking on the hills to fetch in booty marching hitherward, we might descry a mighty host of men, the sun reflecting on the armor shewed, a field of plate, a wood of ticks advance. We think your highness speedily herein, an easy march within 4 hours will bring the hindmost rank unto this place, my liege.
Dislodge, dislodge. It is the King of England.
Jemmy, my man, saddle me bonny black.
Meanst thou to fight, Douglas? We are to weep.
I know it well, my liege, and therefore fly.
My lords of Scotland, will you stay and drink?
Do you mocks at us, Douglas? I cannot endure it.
Say, good my lord, which is he must have the lady, and which her jewels? I am sure my lords will not hence till you have shared the spoils.
She heard the messenger and heard our talk, and now that comfort makes her scorn at us.
Armed like the Lord, oh, we are all surprised. After the French ambassador, my liege, and tell him that you dare not ride to York. Excuse it that your bonny horse is lame.
I heard that too. Intolerable grief. Woman, farewell, although I do not stay.
It's not for fear, and yet you run away. Oh, happy comfort. Welcome to our house. The confident and boisterous boasting Scot that swore before my walls they would not back for all the armed power of this land. With faceless fear, they even turned his back. Turn hence against the blasting northeast wind upon the bare report and name of arms. Ah,
Oh, summer's day. See where my cousin comes. How fares my aunt? We are not Scots. Why do you shut your gates against your friends?
well, may I give a welcome, cousin, to thee? For thou comest well to chase my foes from hence.
The king himself has come in person hither. Dear aunt, descend and congratulate his highness.
Oh, how may I entertain his majesty to show my duty and his dignity? Enter King Edward, Warwick, Arthur, and others.
What, are the stealing foxes fled and gone before we could uncouple at their heels?
They are, my liege, but with a cheerful cry, hot Huns and hardy chase them at the heels.
Ah, this is the Countess Warwick, is it not?
Even she, liege, whose beauty tyrants fear, as a May blossom with pernicious winds hath sullied, withered, overcast, and done.
Has she been fairer, Warwick, than she is?
My gracious king, fair is she not at all. If that herself were by to stain herself, as I have seen her when she was herself.
What strange enchantment lurk in those her eyes, when they excel this excellence they have, that now her dim decline hath power to draw my subjects' eyes from pursing majesty to gaze on her with doting admiration.
In duty, lower than the ground I kneel, and for my dull knees bow my feeling heart, to witness my obedience to your highness, with many millions of a subject's thanks for this, your royal presence, whose approach hath driven war and danger from my gate.
Lady, stand up. I come to bring thee peace, however thereby I have purchased war.
Oh, no war to you, my liege. The Scots are gone, and gallop home towards Scotland with their hate.
Least yielding here, I pine in shameful love. Come, we'll pursue the Scots. Artois, away.
Oh, a little while, my gracious sovereign, stay, and let the power of a mighty king honor our roof. My husband in the wars, when he shall hear it, will triumph for joy. Then, dear my liege, now niggard not thy state being at the wall, enter our homely gate.
Pardon me, Countess, I will come no near. I dream tonight of treason, and I fear.
Oh, far from this place let ugly treason lie.
No further off than her conspiring eye, which shoots infected poison in my heart. Beyond repulsive wit or cure of art, now in the sun alone it doth not lie, with light to take light from a mortal eye. For here today stars that mine eyes would see, more than the sun steals mine own light from me. Contemplative desire, desire to be in contemplation that may master thee. Warlike, Artois, to horse and let's away.
Why I speak to make my sovereign stay.
What needs a tongue to such a speaking eye, that more persuades than winning oratory?
Will not thy presence, like the April sun, flatter our earth and suddenly be done? More happy do not make our outward wall, than thou will grace our inner house withal. Our house, my liege, is like a country swain, whose habit rude and manners blunt and plain presages naught, yet inly beautified, with bounties rich and fair hidden pride. For where the golden ore doth buried lie, the ground undecked with nature's tapestry becomes vain, serene, unfertile, fruitless, dry. And where the upper turf of all doth boast her pride perfumes, and partly covered course delve there, and find this issue in their pride to spring from order and corruption side. To make up my all too long compare, these ragged walls no testimony are. What is within, like a cloak doth hide from weather's waste the ungarnished pride. More gracious than my terms can let thee be, entreat thyself to stay a while with me.
I've got a message to say the host has stopped my video. Can you please start it again? Ah, good. As wise as fair, what fond fit can be heard when wisdom keeps the gate as beauty's guard? Countess, albeit my business urgeth me, it shall attend while I attend on thee. Come on, my lords, here will I host tonight.
I might perceive his eye and her eye lost, his care to drink, her sweet tongue's utterance, and changing passion like in constant clouds that rock upon the carriage of the winds, increase and die in his disturbed cheeks. Lo, when she blushed, even then did he look pale, as if her cheeks by some enchanted power had the cherry blood from his. Anon, with reverent fear, when she grew pale, his cheek put on their scarlet ornaments, but no more like her orient all red than brick to coral, or live things to dead. Why did he then thus counterfeit her looks? If she did blush, 'twas tender modest shame, being in the sacred presence of a king. If he did blush, 'twas red and modest shame, to wail his eyes amiss being a king. If she looked pale, 'twas silly woman's fear, to bear herself in presence of a king. If he looked pale, it was his guilty fear, to dote amiss being a mighty king. Then Scottish wars farewell. I fear 'twill prove a lingering English siege of peevish love. Here comes his highness, walking all alone.
She is grown more fairer far since I came thither, her voice more silver every word than other, her wit more fluent. What a strange discourse unfolded she of David and his Scots. Even thus, quoth she, he spake, and then spoke broad with epithets and accents of the Scot, but somewhat better than the Scot could speak. And thus quoth she, and answered then herself, for who could speak like her but she herself, breathes from the wall, an angel's note from heaven. Oh, sweet defiance to her barbarous foes. When she would talk of peace, methinks her song commanded war to prison. When of war it wakened Caesar from his Roman grave, to hear war beautified by her discourse. Wisdom is foolishness, but in her tongue beauty a slander. But in her fair face there is no summer, but in her cheerful looks no frosty winter. But in her disdain I cannot blame the Scots that did besiege her, for she is all the treasure of our land. But call them cowards that they ran away, having so rich and fair a cause to stay. Art thou there, Lockwood? Give me ink and paper.
I will, my liege.
And bid the lords hold on their play at chess, for we will walk and meditate alone.
I will, my sovereign.
This fellow is well read in poetry, and hath a lusty and persuasive spirit. I will acquaint him with my passion, which he shall shadow with a veil of lawn, through which the Queen of Beauty's queen shall see herself the ground of my infirmity. Hast thou pen, ink, and paper ready, Ludwig?
Yes, I do. Do I have a line here? I'm sorry, I lost my line. Is it, to whom, my lord, shall I direct my style?
No, it's ready, my liege.
Oh, I'm ready, my liege. I beg your pardon. Yes, ready, my liege. I've got it.
No problem, Michael. Then
Okay.
in the summer arbor sit by me, make it our council house or cabinet. Since green our thoughts, green be the conventicle, where we will ease us by disburdening them. Now, Ludwig, invocate some golden muse to bring thee hither an enchanted pen, for that may for sighs set down true sighs indeed, talking of grief to make thee ready groan. And when thou writest of tears, encouch the word before and after with such sweet laments that it may raise drops in a tortoise eye and make a flint heart silly and pitiful, for so much moving hath a poet's pen. Then if thou be a poet, move thou so and be enriched by thy sovereign love. For if the touch of sweet concordant strings could force attendance in the ears of hell, how much more shall the strains of poets' wit beguile and ravish soft and human minds.
To whom, my lord, shall I direct my style?
To one that shames the fair and sots the wise, whose body is an abstract or a brief, contains each gentle virtue in the world. Better than beautiful thou must begin. Devise for fair a fairer word than fair, and every ornament that thou wouldst praise, fly at a pitch above the soar of praise. For flattery, fear thou not to be convicted. For where thy admiration 10 times more, 10 times 10,000 more thy worth exceeds, or that thou art to praise their praises worth. Begin, I will to contemplate the while, forget not to set down how passionate, how heartsick, and how full of languishment her beauty makes me.
Write I to a woman?
What, that you else could triumph on me? Or who but women do our love lays greet? What, think'st thou did I thee praise a horse?
What condition or estate she is, requisite that I should know, my lord?
Of such estate that hers is as a throne, and my estate the footstool where she treads. Then mayst thou judge what her condition is by the proportion of her mightiness. Write on while I peruse her in my thoughts, her voice to music, or the nightingale, to music every summer leaping swain, compares to his sunburnt lover when she speaks. And why should I speak of the nightingale? The nightingale sings an adulterate wrong, and that compared is to satirical. For sin, though sin would not be so esteemed, but rather virtue sin virtue deemed. Her hair far softer than the silkworm's twist, like to a flattering glass doth make more fair. The yellow amber like a flattering glass comes in too soon. For writing of her eyes, I'll say that like a glass they catch the sun, and thence the hot reflection doth rebound against my breast and burns my heart within. Ah, what a world of descant makes my soul upon this voluntary ground of love. Come, Ludwig, hast thou turned thy ink to gold? If not, write but in letters capital my mistress' name, and it will gild thy paper. Read, Lord, read. Fill thou the empty hollows of mine ears with the sweet hearing of thy poetry.
I have not to a period brought her praise.
Her praise is as my love, both infinite, which apprehend such violent extremes that they disdain an ending period. Her beauty has no match but my affection, hers more than most, mine most, and more than more. Hers more to praise than tell the sea by drops, nay, more than drop the massy earth by sands, and said, print them in memory. Then wherefore talk'st thou of a period to that which craves untended admiration? Read, let us hear.
More fair and chaste than is the queen of shades.
That love hath two faults gross and palpable. Comparest thou her to the pale queen of night, who being set in dark seems therefore light? What is she when the sun lifts up its head, but like a fading taper, dim and dead? My love shall brave the eye of heaven at noon, and being unmasked, outshine the golden sun.
What is the other fault, my sovereign lord?
Yeah, read over the line again.
More fair and chaste.
I did not bid thee talk of chaste. Chastity? To ransack so the treason of her mind, for I had rather have her chaste than chaste. Out with the moon line, I will none of it, and let me have her likened to the sun. Say she hath thrice more splendor than the sun, than that her perfections emulates the sun, that she breeds sweets as plenteous as the sun, that she doth thaw cold winter like the sun, that she doth cheer fresh summer like the sun, that she doth dazzle gazers like the sun. And in this application to the sun, let her be free and general as the sun, who smiles upon the basest weed that grows as lovingly as on the fragrant rose. Let's see what follows that same moonlight line.
More fair and chaste than is the lover of shades, more bold in constancy.
In constancy than who?
Than Judith was.
Oh, monstrous line. Put in the next a sword, and I shall woo her to cut off my head. Blot. Good Ludwig, let's hear the rest.
There's all that yet is done.
I thank thee then. Thou hast done little ill. But what is done is passing ill. No, let the captain talk of boisterous war, the prisoner of immured dark constraint. The sick man best sets down the pangs of death, the man that starves the sweetness of a feast, the frozen soul, the benefit of fire, and every grief his happy opposite. Love cannot sound well but in lovers' tongues. Give me pen and paper, I will write. Oh, but soft, here comes the treasurer of my spirit. Ludwig, thou knowst not how to draw a battle. These wings, these flankers, and these squadrons argue in thee defective discipline. Thou shouldst have placed this here, this other here.
Pardon my boldness, my thrice gracious lords. Let my intrusion here be called my duty. Then come to see how my sovereign, how he fares.
Go, draw the same, I tell thee is what form.
I go.
How sorry I am to see my liege so sad. What may thy subject do to drive from thee thy gloomy consort, sullen melancholy?
Ah, lady, I am blunt and cannot stray the flowers of solace, cannot straw the flowers of solace in a ground of shame. Since I came hither, Countess, I am wronged.
Wronged. Sorry, I lost my place. Oh, yes, now, God forbid. Excuse me. Now, God forbid that any in my house should think my sovereign wrong, thrice gentle king.
Acquaint me with their cause of discontent. How near, then, shall I be to remedy?
As near, my liege, as all my woman's power can pawn itself to buy thy remedy.
If thou speakst true, then have I my redress. Engage thy power to redeem my joys, and I am joyful, Countess, ere I die.
Oh, I will, my liege.
Swear, Countess, that thou wilt.
Oh, by heaven, I will.
Then take thyself a little way aside, and tell thyself a king doth dote on thee. Say that within thy power doth lie to make him happy, and that thou hast sworn to give him all the joy within thy power. Do this, and tell me when I shall be happy.
Oh, this is done, my thrice dreaded sovereign. That power of love that I have power to give, thou hast with all devout obedience. Employ me how thou wilt in proof thereof.
Thou hear'st me say that I do dote on thee.
If on my beauty, take it, if thou canst. The little I do prize it 10 times less. If on my virtue, take it if thou canst. For virtue's store by giving doth augment. Be it on what it will, what that I can give, and thou canst take away, inherit it.
It is thy beauty that I would enjoy.
Or were it painted, I would wipe it off and dispose myself to give it thee. But sovereign, it is solid to my life. Take one and both, or like a humble shadow, it haunts the sunshine of my summer's life.
But thou mayst leave it me to sport withal.
As easy may my intellectual soul be lent away, and yet my body live, as lend my body, palace to my soul away from here, and yet retain my soul. My body is her bower, her court, her abbey, and she, an angel poor, pure, divine, unspotted. If I should leave her house, my lord, to thee, I kill my poor soul, and my poor soul me.
Didst thou not swear to give me what I would?
I did, my liege, so what you would, I could.
I wish no more of thee than thou mayst give. Nor beg I do not, but I rather bew that is thy love. And for that love of thine in rich exchange, I tender to thee mine.
But that your lips were sacred, my lord, you would profane the holy name of love. That love you offer me, you cannot give, for Caesar owes that tribute to his queen. That love you beg of me, I cannot give, for Sarah owes that duty to her lord. He that doth clip or counterfeit your stamp shall die, my lord. And will your sacred self commit high treason against the King of heaven, to stamp his image in forbidden metal, forgetting your allegiance and your oath? In violating marriage sacred law, you break a greater honor than yourself. To be a king is of a younger house than to be married. Your progenitor, sole reigning Adam on the universe, by God was honored for a married man, but not by him anointed for a king. It is a penalty to break your statutes, though not enacted with your highness's hand. How much more to infringe the holy act made by the mouth of God, sealed with his hand? I know my sovereign in my husband's love, who now doth loyal service in his wars, thus but to try the wife of Salisbury, whether she will hear a wanton tale or no, lest being therein guilty by my stay, from that, not from my liege, I turn away.
Whether is her beauty by her words divine, or are her words sweet chaplains to her beauty? Like as the wind doth beautify a sail, and as a sail becomes the unseen wind, so doth her words, her beauties, between words. Oh, that I were a honey-gathering bee to bear the comb of virtue from his flower, and not a poison-sucking, envious spider to turn the vice I take to deadly venom. Religion is austere and beauty gentle. To strike a guardian for so fair a weed, oh, that she were as is the air to me. Why, so she is, for when I would embrace her, this do I, and catch nothing but myself. I must enjoy her, for I cannot beat with reason and reproof fond love away. Here comes her father. I will work with him to bear my colours in this field of love.
How is it that my sovereign is so sad? May I with pardon know your highness' grief, and that my old endeavour will remove it. It shall not cumber long your majesty.
A kind and voluntary gift thou profferest, that I was forward to have begged of thee. But, O thou world great nurse of flattery, why dost thou tip men's tongues with golden words, and pays their deeds with weight of heavy lead, that fair performance cannot follow promise? Oh, that a man might hold the heart's close book, and choke the lavish tongue when it doth utter the breath of falsehood not corrected here.
Far be it from the honour of my age that I should owe bright gold and render lead. Age is a sink, not a flatterer. I say again that if I knew your grief, and that by me it may be lessened, my proper harm should buy your highness good. These are the vulgar tenders of false men that never pay the duty of their words.
Thou wilt not stick to swear what thou hast said, but when thou know'st my grief's condition, this ras disgorged vomit at thy word, thou wilt eat up again and leave me helpless.
Ay, by heaven, I will not, though your majesty did bid me run upon your sword and die.
Say that my grief is no way medicinable, but by the loss and bruising of thine honour.
If nothing but that loss may vantage you, I would accomplish that loss my vantage too.
Think'st that thou canst answer thy oath again?
I cannot, nor I would not if I could.
But if thou dost, what shall I say to thee?
What may be said to any perjured villain that break the sacred warrant of an oath?
What wilt thou say to one that breaks an oath?
That he hath broke his faith with God and man, and from them both stands excommunicate.
What office were it to suggest a man to break a lawful and religious vow?
An office for the devil, not for man.
The devil's office must thou do for me, or break thy oath, or cancel all the bonds of love and duty twixt thyself and me. And therefore, Warwick, if thou art thyself the lord and master of thy word and oath, go to thy daughter, and in my behalf command her, woo her, win her anyways to be my mistress and my secret love. I will not stand to hear thee make reply. Thy oath break hers, or let thy sovereign die.
Oh, doting king or detestable office. Well may I tempt myself to wrong myself when he hath sworn me by the name of God to break a vow made by the name of God. What if I swear by this right hand of mine to cut this right hand of the better way, or to profane the idol, then confound it? But neither will I do. I'll keep mine oath, and to my daughter make a recantation of all the virtue I have preached to her. I'll say she must forget her husband Salisbury if she remember to embrace the king. I'll say an oath may easily be broken, but not so easily pardoned being broken. I'll say it is true charity to love, but not true love to be so charitable. I'll say his greatness may bear out the shame, but not his kingdom can buy out the sin. I'll say it's my duty to persuade, but not her honesty to give consent. Here, see where she comes. Was never father had against his child an embassage so bad?
My lord and father, I have sought for you. My mother and the peers importune you to keep in promise of his majesty and do your best to make his highness merry.
How shall I enter into this gracious errand? I must not call her child, for where's the father that will in such a suit seduce his child? Then, wife of Salisbury, shall I so begin? No, he's my friend, and where is found the friend that will do friendship such endamagement? Neither my daughter nor my dear friend's wife. I am not Warwick as thou thinkst I am, but an attorney from the court of hell that thus have housed my spirit in this form, to do a message to thee from the king. The mighty king of England dotes on thee. He that hath power to take away thy life, hath power to take thy honor, then consent to pawn thine honor rather than thy life. Honor is often lost and got again, but life once gone hath no recovery. The sun that withers here goeth nourish grass. The king that would disdain thee will advance thee. The poets write that great Achilles' spear could heal the wound it made. The moral is, what mighty men misdo, they can amend. The lion doth become his bloody jaws, and grace his foragement by being mild. When vassal fear lies trembling at his feet, the king will in his glory hide thy shame. And those that gaze on him to find out thee will lose their eyesight looking in the sun. What can one drop of poison harm the sea? Whose huge vastures can digest the ill and make it loose his operation. The king's great name will temper their misdeeds and give the bitter portion of reproach a sugared, sweet, and most delicious taste. Besides, it is no harm to do the thing which without shame could not be left undone. Thus have I in his majesty's behalf apparelled sin in virtuous sentences and dwell upon thy answer in his suit.
Oh, unnatural besiege. Woe me, unhappy, to have escaped the danger of my foes and to be 10 times worse environed by friends. Hath he no means to stain my honest blood, but to corrupt the author of my blood, to be his scandalous and vile solicitor? Oh, no marvel, though the branches be then affected when poison have encompassed the root. No marvel, though the leprous infant die when the stern disenvenoming the dug. Why then give sin a passport to offend, and youth the dangerous reign of liberty? Blot out the strict forbidding of the law, and cancel every canon that prescribes a shame for shame or penance for offense. No, let me die, if his too boisterous will have it so, before I will consent to be an actor in his graceless lust.
Why, now thou speak'st, I would have thee speak. And mark how I unsay my words again. An honorable grave is more esteemed than the polluted closet of a king. The greater man, the greater is the thing, be it good or bad that he shall undertake. An unreputed mote flying in the sun presents a greater substance than it is. The freshest summer's day doth soonest taint the loathed carrion that it seems to kiss. Deep are the blows made with a mighty axe, that sin doth 10 times aggravate itself, that is committed in a holy place. An evil deed done by authority is sin and subornation. Deck an ape in tissue, and the beauty of the robe adds but the greater scorn unto the beast. A spacious field of reasons could I urge between his gloomy daughter and thy shame. That poison shows worst in a golden cup. Dark night seems darker by the lightning flash. Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds. And every glory that inclines to sin, the shame is treble by the opposite. So leave I with my blessing in thy bosom, which then convert to a most heavy curse. When thou convertest from honor's golden name to the black faction of blood bed blotting shame.
I'll follow thee, and when my mind turns so, my body sinks, my soul in endless woe.
Christ noble Audley, well encountered here. How's it with our sovereign and his peers?
Ah, 'tis full a fortnight since I saw his highness. What time he sent me forth, no matter, no to muster men, which I accordingly have done, and bring them hither in fair array before his majesty.
Next line's yours.
Ah, mine?
Yeah.
What news, my lord of Derby, from the emperor?
As good as we desire. The emperor hath yielded to his highness friendly aid, and makes our king lieutenant general in all his lands and large dominions. Then via for the spacious bounds of France.
What, doth his highness leap to hear these news?
I have not yet found time to open them. The king is in his closet malcontent. For what I know not, but he gave in charge, till after dinner none should interrupt him. The Countess Salisbury and her father Warwick, Artois, and all look underneath the brows.
Undoubtedly, then, something is amiss.
The trumpets sound, the king is now abroad.
Ah, here comes his highness.
Befall my sovereign, all my sovereign's wish.
Ah, that there were a witch to make it so.
The emperor greeteth you,
Would it were the countess.
and hath accorded to your highness suit.
Thou liest, she has not, but I would she had.
All
Well-
love and duty to my lord the king.
Well, all but one is none. What news with you?
I have, my liege, levied those horse and foot according to your charge and brought them hither.
Then let those foot trudge hence upon those horse, according to our discharge, and be gone. Darby, I'll look upon the countess' mind anon.
The Countess mine my liege.
I mean the Emperor. Leave me alone.
What is his mind?
Let's leave him to his humor.
Thus from the heart's abundant speaks the tongue. Countess for Emperor? And indeed, why not? She is as imperator over me, and I to her am as a kneeling vassal that observes the pleasure or displeasure of her eye. What says the more than Cleopatra match to Caesar now?
That yet, my liege, ere night she will resolve, your majesty.
What drum is this that thunders forth this march to start the tender Cupid in my bosom? Poor sheepskin, how it brails with him that breatheth, that beateth it. Go break the thundering parchment, bottom out, and I will teach it to conduct sweet lines unto the bosom of a heavenly nymph. For I will use it as my writing paper, and so reduce him from a scolding drum to be the herald and dear counsel bearer betwixt a goddess and a mighty king. So bid the drummer learn to touch the lute, or hang him in the braces of his drum. For now we think it an uncivil thing to trouble heaven with such harsh sounds. Away! The quarrel that I have requires no arms, but these of mine, and these shall meet my foe in a deep march of penetrable groans. My eyes shall be my arrows, and my sighs shall serve me as the vantage of the wind to whirl away my sweetest artillery. But alas, she wins the son of me, for that she is herself. And since it comes that poets tear and wanton warrior blind, but love hath eyes as judgment to his steps, till too much loved glory dazzles them. How now?
My liege, the drum that stroke the lusty march stands with Prince Edward, your thrice valiant son.
I see the boy. Oh, how his mother's face molded in his corrects my strayed desire, and rates my heart and chides my thievish eye, who being rich enough in seeing her, yet seek elsewhere. And basest theft is that which cannot choke itself on poverty. Now, boy, what news?
I have assembled, my dear lord and father, the choicest buds of all our English blood for our affairs to France. And here we come to take direction from your majesty.
Still do I see him delineate his mother's visage, those his eyes are hers, who looking wistfully on me make me blush for faults against themselves, give evidence lust as a fire, and me like lanthorns show light lust within themselves, even through themselves. Away, loose silks or wavering vanity, shall the large limit offer Brittany. By me be your throne, and shall I not master this little mansion of myself? Give me an armor of eternal steel. I go to conquer kings, and shall I not then subdue myself and be my enemy's friend? It must not be. Come, boy, forward, advance. Let's with our colours sweep the air of France.
My liege, the countess with a smiling cheer desires access unto your majesty.
Why, there it goes. That very smile of hers hath ransomed captive France and set the king, the dauphin, the peers at liberty. Go leave me, Ned, and revel with thy friends. Thy mother is but black, and thou, like her, dost put it in my mind how foul she is. Go fetch the countess, heather in thy hand, and let her chase away these winter clouds, for she gives beauty both to heaven and earth. The sin is more to hack and hew poor men than to embrace in an unlawful bed the register of all rarities, since leathern Adam till this youngest hour. Go, Ludwig, put thy hand into thy purse, play, spend, give, riot, waste, do what thou wilt, so thou wilt hence a while and leave me here. Now my soul's playfellow art thou come to speak the more than heavenly word of thee, yea, to my objection in thy beauteous love,
My father on his blessing hath commanded.
that thou shalt yield to me,
Ay, dear my liege, your due.
and that, my dearest love, can be no less than right for right, and render love for love.
And wrong for wrong and endless hate for hate. But since I see your majesty so bent that my unwillingness, my husband's love, your high estate, nor no respect respected can be my help, but that your mightiness will overbear and awe these dear regards, I bind my discontent to my content, and what I would not, I'll compel I will, provided that yourself remove those lets that stand between your highness' love and mine.
Name them, fair countess, and by heaven and will.
It is their lives that stand between our love that I would have choked up my sovereign.
Whose lives, my lady?
My thrice loving liege, your queen, and Salisbury, my wedded husband, whose living have that title in our love that cannot bestow but by their death.
Thy opposition is beyond our law.
So is your desire. If the law can hinder you to execute the one, let it forbid you to attempt the other. I cannot think, if you love me as you say, unless you do make good what you have sworn.
No more. Thy husband and the queen shall die. Fairer thou art by far than Hero was. Beardless Leander, not so strong as I. He sworn an easy current for his love, but I will throng a helly spout of blood to arrive at Cestus, where my hero lies.
Nay, you'll do more. You'll make the river too with their heart's blood that keep our love asunder, of which my husband and your wife are twain.
Thy beauty makes them guilty of their death, and gives in evidence that they shall die, upon which verdict I, their judge, condemn them.
Oh, perjured beauty, or corrupted judge. When to the great star chamber over our heads the universal sessions call to court this packing evil, we both shall tremble for it.
What says my fair love? Is she resolute?
Resolute to be desolate, and therefore this. Keep but thy word, great king, and I am thine. Stand where thou dost, I'll part a little from thee, and see how I will yield me to thy hands. Here by my side doth hang my wedding knives. Take thou the one, and with it kill thy queen, and learn by me to find her where she lies. And with this other, I'll dispatch my love, which now lies fast asleep within my heart. When they are gone, then I'll consent to love. Stir not, lascivious king, to hinder me. My resolution is more nimble far than thy prevention can be in my rescue. And if thou stir, I strike. Therefore stand still and hear the choice that I put to thee. Either swear to leave thy most unholy suit and never forth to solicit me, or else by heaven this sharp-pointed knife shall stain thy earth with that which thou wouldst stain my poor chaste blood. Swear, Edward, swear, or I will strike and die before thee here.
Even by that power I swear that gives me now the power to be ashamed of myself, I never meant to part my lips again in any words that tend to such a suit. Arise, true English lady, who our isle may better boast of them than ever Roman might, of her whose ransacked treasury thou takest, the vain endeavor of so many pens. Arise and be my fault, thy honor's fame, which after ages shall enrich with thee. I am awaked from this idle dream. Warwick, my son, Derby, Artois, and Audley, brave warriors all, where are you all this while? Warwick, I make thee warden of the north, thou, Prince of Wales, and Audley, straight to sea. Scour New Haven, some there stay for me. Myself, Artois, and Derby will through Flanders to greet our friends there and to crave their aid. This night will scarce suffice me to discover my folly's siege against a faithful lover. For ere the sun shall guide the eastern sky, we'll wake with him our martial harmony.
Exeunt. Enter King John of France, his two sons, Charles of Normandy and Philip, and the Duke of Lorraine.
Here till our navy of 1,000 sail have made a breakfast to our foe by sea, let us encamp to wait their happy speed. Lorraine, what readiness is Edward in? How hast thou heard that he provided is of martial furniture for his exploit?
To lay aside unnecessary soothing and not to spend the time in circumstance. 'Tis prudent for a certainty, my lord, that he's exceedingly strongly fortified. His subjects flock as willingly to war as if unto a triumph they were led.
England was wont to harbor malcontents, bloodthirsty and seditious Catilians, spendthrifts, and such as gape for nothing else but changing and alteration of the state. And is it possible that they are now so loyal in themselves?
Oh, but the Scot, who solemnly protests, as heretofore I have informed his grace, never to sheath his sword or take a truce.
That's the anchorage of some better hope. But on the other side, to think what friends King Edward had retained in Netherland, among those ever-bibbing epicures, those frothy Dutchmen, puffed with double beer, that drink and swill in every place they come, doth not a little aggravate mine ire? Besides, we hear the emperor conjoins, and styles him in his own authority. But all the mightier that their number is, the greater glory reaps the victory. Some friends have we beside drumstick power, the stern Polonian and the warlike Dane, the king of Bohemia and of Sicily, are all become confederates with us, and as I think are marching hither apace. But soft I hear the music of their drums, by which I guess that their approach is near.
King, just a minute. King John of France, as league and neighborhood requires when friends are in any way distressed, I come to aid thee with my country's force.
And from great Moscow, fearful to the Turk, and lofty Poland, nurse of hardy men, I bring these servitors to fight for thee, who willingly will venture in thy cause.
Welcome, Bohemian King, and welcome all. This your great kindness I will not forget. Besides your plentiful rewards and crowns, that from our treasury ye shall receive, there comes a hay-reigned nation decked in pride, the spoil of whom will be a treble gain. And now my hope is full, my joy complete. At sea we are as puissant as the force of Agamemnon in the haven of Troy. By land with Xerxes we compare of strength, whose soldiers drank up rivers in their thirst, then bared like blind overweening Ned to reach at our imperial diadem, is either to be swallowed of the waves or hacked to pieces when thou comest ashore.
Enter a mariner.
Here to the coast, I have described, my lord, as I was busy in my watchful charge, the proud armado of the King Edward ships, which at first far off I did ken. Second, as it were, a grove of withered pines, but drawing near, their glorious bright aspect, their streaming ensigns, wrought of colored silk, like to a meadow full of sundry flowers, adorns the naked bosom of the earth, majestical the order of their course, figuring the horned circle of the moon, and on top gallant of the admiral, and likewise all the handmaids of his train, the arms of England and of France unite, are courted equally by herald's art. Thus title carried with merry gale, they plowed the ocean hitherto amain.
There he already cropped the fleur de lis. I hope the honey being gathered thence, he with the spider afterward approached, shall suck forth deadly venom from the leaves. But where's our navy? How are they prepared to wing themselves against this flight of ravens?
They having knowledge brought them by the scouts, did break away from anchor straight and puffed with rage. No otherwise than were their sails with wind made forth, as when the empty eagle flies to satisfy his hungry griping maw.
These for thy news returned unto thy bark. And if thou escape the bloody stroke of war, and do survive the conflict, come again, and let us hear the manner of the fight. Mean space, my lords, this best be dispersed. To several places, least they chance to land. First you, my lord, with your Bohemian troops, shall pitch your battles on the lower hand. My eldest son, the Duke of Normandy, together with his aid of Muscovites, shall climb the higher ground another way. Here in the middle cost betwixt you both. Philip, my youngest boy, and I will lodge. So lords, be gone, and look unto your charge. You stand for France, an empire fair and large. Now tell me, Philip, what is their concept touching the challenge that the English make?
Say, my lord, claim over what he can, and bring he near so plain a pedigree, till you are in possession of the crown, and that's the shortest point of all the law. But were it not, yet ere he should prevail, I'll make a conduit of my dearest blood, or I'll chase those straggling upstarts home again.
Well said, young Philip. Call for bread and wine.
The battle heard afar off.
That we may cheer our stomachs with repast. To look our foes more sternly in the face, now is begun the heavy day at sea. Fight, Frenchmen, fight. Be like the field of bears when they defend their younglings in their caves. Stir angry nemesis the happy helm, that with the sulphur battles of your rage, the English fleet may be dispersed and sunk.
Oh, father, how this echoing cannon shot, like sweet harmony, digest my case.
Now, boy, thou hearest what thundering terror it is, to buckle for a kingdom's sovereignty, the earth with giddy trembling when it shakes, or when the exhalations of the air breaks in extremity of lightning flash, affrights not more than kings when they dispose to shew the rancor of their high swollen hearts. Retray is sounded, one side hath the worse. Oh, if it be the French, sweet fortune turn, and in thy turning change the forward winds, that with advantage of a savouring sky, our men may vanquish and thither fly.
Enter Mariner.
My heart misgives. Say, mirror of pale death, to whom belongs the honor of this day? Relate, I pray thee, if thy breath still serve the sad discourse of this discomfiture.
I will, my lord, my gracious sovereign. France had ta'en the, I can't see. France had ta'en the foil, and boasting England triumphs with success. These iron-hearted navies, when last I was reported to your grace, both full of angry spleen of hope and fear, hasting to meet each other in the face, at last conjoined, and by their admiral, our admiral encountered many shot, so that by this the other that beheld these twain, one earnest penny of a further wrack, like fiery dragon, took their haughty flight, and likewise meeting from their smoky wombs, sent many grim ambassadors of death. Then gan the day to turn to gloomy night, and darkness did as well enclose the quick as those that were but newly reft of life. No leisure served for friends to bid farewell, and if it had, the hideous noise was such as etched to others seemed deaf and dumb. Purple the seas whose channels fled as fast, filled as fast, with streaming gore that from the maimed fell, as did her gushing moisture break into crannied defectures of through sharp planks. Here flew a head dissevered from the trunk. Their mangled arms and legs were tossed aloft. And when a whirlwind takes the summer dust and scatters it in the middle of the air, then might she see the reeling vessels split and tottering sink into the ruthless flood until their lofty tops were seen no more. All shifts were tried both for defense and hurt, and now the effect of valor and of force, of resolution, and of a cowardice. We lively pictured how the one for fame, the other by compulsion laid about. Much did the Nom per Illa, that brave ship, so did the Black Snake of Bullen, than which a bonnier vessel never yet sped sail, but all in vain. Took sun the wine and tide, revolted all unto our foemen's side, that we perforce were fain to give them way, and they were landed. This my tale is done. We have untimely lost, and they have won.
Then rest there nothing.
Before they break so far into the land. Wait. Oh, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Then rest there nothing but with present speed to join our several forces all in one and bid them battle ere they range too far. Come, gentle Philip, let us hence depart. This soldier's words have pierced my father's heart.
Exeunt. Enter two Frenchmen, a woman and two little children. Meet then another citizens.
Well met, my masters. How now? What's the news? And wherefore are you laden this with stuff? What is it quarter day that you remove and carry bag and baggage too?
Quarter day. I ain't quartering pay, I fear. Have we not heard the news that flies abroad?
What news?
The French Navy is destroyed at sea and that the English army has arrived.
What then?
What then, quoth you? Why, it's not time to fly when envy and destruction is so high.
Content thee, man. They're far enough from hence, and will be met, I warrant ye, to their cost, before they break so far into the realm.
I so the grasshopper doth spend the time in mirthful jollity this winter come, and then too late he would redeem his time when frozen cold hath nipped his careless head. He that no sooner will provide a cloak than when he sees it doth begin to rain, may peradventure for his negligence be thoroughly washed when he suspects it not. We that have charge in such a traitor as this must look in time to look for them and us, least when we would, we cannot be relieved.
Belike you then, despair of ill success, and think your country will be subjugate.
We cannot tell. 'Tis good to fear the worst.
Yet rather fight than like unnatural sons forsake your loving parents in distress.
Ah, tush, they have already taken armies as many fearful millions in respect of that small handful of our enemies. But 'tis a rightful quarrel must prevail. Edward is son unto our late king's sister, when John Valois is 3 degrees removed.
Besides, there goes a prophecy abroad published by one that was a friar once, whose oracles have many times proved true, and now he says that time will shortly come when as a lion roused in the west shall carry hence the fleur de luc of France. These I can tell ye, and such like surmises strike many Frenchmen cold unto the heart. Fly, countrymen and citizens.
Enter a Frenchman. This is someone else who comes in to tell them this.
Fly, countrymen and citizens of France. Sweet flowering peace, the root of happy life, is quite abundant and exposed to land. Instead of some ransacked constraining war, sights like to ravens upon your houses' tops, slaughter and mischief walk within your streets, and unrestrained make havoc as they pass. The form whereof even now myself beheld upon this fair mountain whence I came, for so far off as I directed mine eyes, I might perceive 5 cities all on fire, cornfields and vineyards burning like an oven, and as the leaking vapor in the wind, I turned, but aside I likewise might discern. The poor inhabitants escaped the flame, fall numberless upon the soldiers' spikes. 3 ways these dreadful ministers of wrath do tread the measures of their tragic march. Upon the right hand comes the conquering king, upon the left his hot, unbridled son, and in the midst our nation's glittering host, all which though distant yet conspire in one to leave a desolation where they come. Fly therefore, citizens, if you be wise, seek out some habitation further off. Here, if you stay, your wives will be abused, your treasure shared before your weeping eyes. Shelter you yourself, for now the storm doth rise. Away, away, methinks I hear their drums. Ah, wretched France, I greatly fear thy fall. Thy glory shaketh like a tottering wall.
Enter King Edward and the Earl of Derby with soldiers and Gawain de Grey.
Where's the Frenchman by whose cunning guide we found the shallow of this river's son and had direction how to pass the sea?
Here, my good lord.
How art thou called? Tell me thy name.
Gawain de Grey, if it please your excellence.
Then, Gawain, for the service thou hast done, we here enlarge and give thee liberty. And for recompense, beside this good, thou shalt receive 500 marks in gold. I know not how we should have met our son, whom now in heart I wish I might behold.
Enter Artois.
Oh, that's Artois, sorry.
Enter Artois.
Good news, my lord. The prince is hard at hand, and with him comes Lord Otway and the rest, with whom since our landing we could never meet.
Welcome, fair prince. How hast thou sped, my son, since thy arrival on the coast of France?
Successfully, I thank the gracious heavens. Some of their strongest cities we have won, as Harslan, Lye, Crotag, and Carentine, and others wasted, leaving at our heels a wide apparent field and beaten path for solitariness to progress in. Yet those that would submit we kindly pardoned, for who in scorn refused our proffered peace, endured the penalty of sharp revenge.
Ah, France, why shouldst thou be this obstinate against the kind embracement of thy friends? How gentle had we thought to touch thy breast and set our foot upon thy tender mould. But in that forward and disdainful pride, thou, like a skittish and untamed colt, dost start aside and strike us with thy heels. But tell me, Ned, in all thy warlike course, hast thou not seen the usurping king of France?
Yes, my good lord, and not 2 hours ago, with full 100,000 fighting men upon the one side with the river's bank, and on the other both his multitudes. I feared he would have cropped our smaller power, but happily perceiving your approach, he hath withdrawn himself to Cressy Plains, or as it seemeth by his good array, he means to bid us battle presently.
Ye shall be welcome, that's the thing we crave.
Enter King John, Dukes of Normandy and Lorraine, King of Bohemia, young Philip, and soldiers.
Edward, know that John, the true king of France, musing thou shouldst encroach upon his land, and in thy tyrannous proceedings slay his faithful subjects and subvert his towns, spits in thy face, and in this manner following, upbraids thee with thine arrogant intrusion. First, I condemn thee for a fugitive, a thievish pirate, and a needy mate, one that had either no abiding place, or else inhabiting some barren soil, where neither herb nor or fruitful grain is had, dost altogether live by pilfering. Next, in so much thou hast infringed thy faith, broke liege and solemn covenant made with me, I hold thee for a false pernicious wretch. And last of all, although I scorn to cope with one such inferior to myself, yet in respect thy thirst is all for gold. They labor rather to be feared than loved, to satisfy thy lust in either part. Here am I come, and with me have I brought exceeding store of treasure, pearl and coin. Leave therefore now to persecute the weak, and armed entering conflict with the armed. Let it be seen, mongest other petty thefts, how thou canst win this village manfully.
If gall or wormwood have a pleasant taste, then is thy salutation honey sweet. But as the one hath no such property, so is the other most satirical. Yet what how I regard thy worthless taunts, if thou have uttered them to foil my fame or dim the reputation of my birth, know that thy wolfish barking cannot hurt, if slyly to insinuate with the world and with the strumpet's artificial line to paint thy vicious and deformed cause. Be well assured the counterfeit will fade, and in the end thy foul defects be seen. If thou didst it to provoke me on, as who should say I were but timorous or coldly negligent, did need a spur, bethink thyself how I did slack I was at sea. Now since my landing I have won no towns, entered no further but upon thy coast, and there have ever since securely slept. But if I have been otherwise employed, imagine, Valois, whether I intend to skirmish, not for pillage, but for the crown which thou dost wear, and that I vow to have, or one of us shall fall into this grave.
Look not for cross invectives at our hands, or railing execrations of despite. Let creeping serpents hid in hollow banks sting with their tongues. We have remorseless swords, and they shall plead for us in our affairs. Yet thus much briefly by my father's leave. As all the immodest poison of thy throat is scandalous and most notorious lies, and our pretended quarrel is truly just, so end the battle when we meet today. May either of us prosper and prevail, or luckless cursed receive eternal shame.
That needs no further question, and I know his conscience witnesseth it is my right. Therefore, Valois, say, wilt thou yet resign before the sickle's thrust into the corn, or that enkindled fury turn to flame?
Edward, I know what right thou hast in France, and ere I basely will resign my crown, this champion field shall be a pool of blood, and all our prospect as a slaughterhouse.
Aye, that approves thee, tyrant, what thou art. No father, king, or shepherd of thy realm, but one that tears her entrails with thy hands, and like a thirsty tiger suckest her blood.
You peers of France, why do you follow him that is so prodigal to spend your blood, your lives?
Whom should they follow, aged impotent, that he that is their true-born sovereign? Upbraidest thou him because within his face time hath engraved deep characters of age? Know that these grave scholars of experience, like stiff-grown oaks, will stand immovable when whirlwind quickly turns up younger trees.
Was any of thy father's house king, but thyself before this present time? Edward's great lineage by the mother's side, 500 years has held the scepter up. Judge then, conspirators by this descent, which is the true-born sovereign, this or that? Father, ranger battles, prate no more. These English fain would spend their time in words. That night approaching, they might escape unfought.
Lords and my loving subjects, knows the time that your intended force must bide the touch. Therefore, my friends, consider this in brief. He that you fight for is your natural king. He against whom you fight is a foreigner. He that you fight for rules in clemency, and reigns you with a mild and gentle feet. He against whom you fight, if he prevail, will straight enthrone himself in tyranny, make slaves of you, and with a heavy hand curtail and curb your sweetest liberty. Then to protect your country and your king, let but the haughty courage of your hearts answer the number of your able hands, and we shall quickly chase these fugitives. For what's this Edward but a belly god, a tender and lascivious wantoness, that t'other day was almost dead for love? And what I pray you is his goodly guard, such as but scant them of their chines of beef, and take away their downy feather beds. And presently they are as resty stiff as there a many overridden jades. Then Frenchmen scorn that such should be your lords, and rather bind ye them in captive bands.
Vive le roi! God save King John of France!
Now on this plain of Cressy spread yourselves, and Edward, when thou darest, begin the fight.
We presently will meet thee, John of France. And English lords, let us resolve the date, either to clear us of that scandalous crime or be entombed in our innocence. And Ned, because this battle is the first that ever thou fought'st in pitched field, as ancient custom is of martialists, do dub thee with the type of chivalry. In solemn manner we will give thee arms. Come therefore, heralds, orderly bring forth a strong attirement for the prince my son.
Enter 4 heralds bringing in a coat of armor, a helmet, a lance, and a shield.
Edward Plantagenet, in the name of God, as with this armor I impale thy breast, so be thy noble unrelenting heart walled in the flint of matchless fortitude, that never base affections ever enter there. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest. Now follow lords, and do him honor to.
Edward Plantagenet, Prince of Wales, as I just set this helmet on thy head, wherewith the chamber of this brain is fenced, so may thy temples with Bellona's hand be still adorned with laurel victory. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest.
Edward Plantagenet, Prince of Wales, receive this lance unto thy manly hand. Use it in a fashion of a brazen pen to draw forth bloody stratagems in France, and print thy valiant chiefs in deeds in honor's book. Fight and be valiant, vanquish where thou comest.
That's Artois.
H.
68, bottom of the page.
Edward Plantagenet, Prince of Wales, hold, take this target, wear it on thine arm, and may the view thereof, like Perseus' shield, astonish and transform thy gazing foes to senseless images of meager death. Fight and be valiant, conquer where thou comest.
Now wants there naught but knighthood, which deferred we'll leave till thou hast won it in the field.
My gracious father, and ye forward peers, this honor you have done me animates and cheers my green yet scarce appearing strength, with comfortable good presaging signs, no otherwise than did old Jacob's words when as he breathed his blessings on his sons. These hallowed gifts of yours, when I profane, or use them not to glory of my God, to patronage the fatherless and poor, or for the benefit of England's peace, be numb my joints, wax feeble both mine arms, wither my heart that like a sapless tree I may remain the map of infamy.
Then this our steeled battles shall be reigned. The leading of the voward Ned is thine, to dignify whose lusty spirit the more we temper it with Audley's gravity. That courage and experience joined in one, your manage may be second unto none. For the main battles I will guide myself, and Derby in the rearward march behind, that orderly disposed and set in ray. Let us to horse, and God grant us the day.
Exeunt. Alarum, enter a many a Frenchmen flying, after them Prince Edward running, then enter King John and Duke of Lorraine.
O Lorraine, say, what mean our men to fly? Our number is far greater than our foes.
The garrison of Genoese, my lord, that came from Paris, weary with their march, grudging to be suddenly employed, no sooner in the forefront took their place, but straight retiring, so dismayed the rest, as likewise they betook themselves to flight, in which for haste to make a safe escape, more in the clustering throng are pressed to death than by the enemy 1,000-fold.
Oh, hapless fortune, let us yet essay, if we can counsel some of them to stay.
Lord Audley, whiles our son is in the chase, withdraw our powers unto this little hill, and here a season let us breathe ourselves.
I will, my lord.
Just dooming heaven, whose secret providence to our gross judgment is inscrutable, how are we bound to praise thy wondrous works that hast this day given way unto the right and made the wicked stumble at themselves?
Enter Artois.
Rescue, King Edward, rescue for thy son.
Rescue Artois. What, is he prisoner, or by violence fell beside his horse?
Neither, my lord, but narrowly beset with turning Frenchmen, whom he did pursue, as 'tis impossible that he should escape, except your highness presently descend.
Tcha, let him fight. We gave him arms today, and he is laboring for a knighthood, man.
Prince, my lord, the prince. Oh, succor him. He's close encompassed with the world of odds.
Then will he win a world of honor too, if he by valor can redeem him hence. If not, what remedy? We have more sons than one to comfort our declining age.
Renowned king, give me leave, I pray, to lead my soldiers where I may relieve your grace's son, in danger to be slain. The snares of the French, like emmets on a bank, muster about him, whilst he lion-like, entangled in the net of their assaults, frantically rends and bites the woven toil, but all in vain, he cannot free himself.
Audley, content. I will not have a man on pain of death sent forth to succor him. This is the day ordained by destiny to season his courage with those grievous thoughts that if he breaketh out, Nestor's years on earth will make him savor still of this exploit.
Ah, but he shall not live to see those days.
Aye, then his epitaph is lasting praise.
Yet, good my lord, 'tis too much willfulness to let his blood be spilt that may be saved.
Exclaim me no more. For none of you can tell whether a borrowed aid will serve or no. Perhaps he is already slain or ta'en. And dare a falcon when she's in her flight, and ever after she'll be haggard like, let Edward be delivered by our hands, and still in danger he'll expect the like. But if himself redeemed from thence, he will have vanquished cheerful death and fear, and ever after dread their force no more than if they were but babes or captive slaves.
Oh, cruel father, farewell, Edward, then.
Farewell, sweet prince, the hope of chivalry.
Oh, would my life might ransom him from death.
But soft, methinks I hear the dismal charge of trumpets' loud retreat. All are not slain. I hope that went with him. Some will return with tidings, good or bad.
Enter Prince Edward in triumph, bearing in his hand his shivered lance, and the King of Bohemia, born before, wrapped in the colors. They run and embrace him.
Oh, joyful sight! Victorious Edward lives!
Welcome, brave prince.
Welcome, Plantagenets.
First, having done my duty as beseemed lords, I regreet you all with hearty thanks. And now behold, after my winter's toil, my painful voyage on the boisterous sea, of wars devouring gulfs and steely rocks, I bring my fraught unto the wished port, my summer's hope, my travel's sweet reward. And here with humble duty I present this sacrifice, this first fruit of my sword, cropped and cut down even at the gate of death. The King of Boheme, Father, whom I slew, whom you said had entrenched me round about, and lay as thick upon my battered crest as on an anvil with their ponderous glaives, yet marble courage still did underprop. And when my weary arms with often blows, like the continual laboring woodman's axe that is enjoined to fell a load of oaks, began to falter, straight I would recover my gifts you gave me and my zealous vow. And then new courage made me fresh again, that in despite I carved my passage forth, and put the multitude to speedy flight. Lo, this hath Edward's hand filled your request, and done, I hope, the duty of a knight.
Aye, well hast thou deserved a knighthood, Ned, and therefore with thy sword, yet reeking warm with blood of those that fought to be thy bane, arise, Prince Edward, trusty knight at arms. This day thou hast confounded me with joy, and provide thyself fit heir unto a king.
Here is a note, my gracious lord, of those that in this conflict of our foes were slain. 11 princes of esteem, 80 barons, 120 knights, and 30,000 common soldiers, and of our men 1,000.
Ah, God be praised. Now, John of France, I hope thou knowest King Edward for no wantonness, no lovesick cockney, nor his soldiers' jades. But which way is the fearful king escaped?
Towards Poitiers, noble father, and his sons.
Ned, thou and Audley shall pursue them still. Myself and Derby will to Calais straight, and there be girt at Haven town with siege. Now lies it on an upshot. Therefore strike, and wistly follow while the game's on foot.
A pelican, my lord, wounding her bosom with her crooked beak, that so her nest of young ones might be fed with drops of blood that issue from her heart. The motto, sic et vos, and so should you.
Exeunt. Enter
My lord of Salisbury, since by our aid mine enemy Sir Charles of Blois is slain, and I again am quietly possessed in Britain's dukedom, know that I resolve for this kind of furtherance of your king and you to swear allegiance to his majesty, in sign whereof receive this coronet, bear it unto him, and with all mine oath, never to be but Edward's faithful friend.
I take it, Montfort, thus I hope ere long the whole dominions of the realm of France will be surrendered to his conquering hand. Now, if I knew but safely how to pass, I would to Calais gladly meet his grace, whether I am by letters certified. Yet he intends to have his hosts removed. It shall be so. This policy will serve. Ho, who is within? Bring Villiers to me.
Enter Villiers.
Villiers, Villiers, thou knowest thou art my prisoner, and that I might for ransom, if I would, require of thee 100,000 francs, or else retain and keep thee captive still. And so it is that for a smaller charge thou mayst be quit, and if thou wilt to thyself, and this it is, procure me but a passport of Charles the Duke of Normandy, that I, without restraint, may have recourse to Calais, through all the countries where he doth to do, which thou mayst easily obtain, I think, by reason I have often heard thee say, he and thou were students once together, and then thou shalt be set at liberty. How sayest thou? Wilt thou undertake to do it?
I will, my lord, but I must speak with him.
Why, so thou shalt. Take horse and post from hence. Only before thou goest, swear by thy faith that if thou canst not come past my desire, thou wilt return my prisoner back again, and that shall be sufficient warrant for me.
To that condition, I agree, my lord, and will unfavorably perform the same.
Farewell, Villiers. Thus once I mean to try a Frenchman's faith.
Exit. Enter King Edward and Darby with soldiers.
Since they refuse our proffered league, my lord, and will not ope their gates and let us in, we will entrench ourselves on every side, that neither victuals nor supply of men may come to succor this accursed town. Famine shall combat where our swords are stopped.
Enter 6 poor Frenchmen.
Promised aid that made them stand aloof is now retired and gone another way. It will repent them of their stubborn will. But what are these poor ragged slaves, my lord?
Ask what they are. It seems they come from Calais.
You wretched patterns of despair and woe, what are you, living men or gliding ghosts, crept from your graves to walk upon the earth?
No ghosts, my lord, but men that breathe a life far worse than is the quiet sleep of death. We are distressed poor inhabitants that long have been deceased, sick and lame, and now because we are not fit to serve, the captain of that town has thrust us forth, and so expensive victuals may be saved.
A charitable deed, no doubt, and worthy praise. But how do you imagine then to speed? We are your enemies in such a case. We can no less but put you to the sword, since when we proffered truce, it was refused.
And if your grace no otherwise vouchsafe, as welcome death is unto us as life.
Poor silly men, much wronged and more distressed. Go, Darby, go. See they be relieved. Command what victuals be appointed them, and give to everyone 5 crowns apiece. The lion scorns to touch the yielding prey, and Edward's sword must fresh itself in such as wilful stubbornness had made perverse.
Enter Lord Percy.
Lord Percy, welcome. What's the news in England?
The Queen, my lord, comes here to your grace, and for her highness and the Lord Vicegerent, I bring these happy tidings of success. David of Scotland, lately up in arms, thinking belike he soonest should prevail, your highness being absent from the realm, is by the fruitful service of your peers and painful travail of the queen herself, that big with child was in every day in arms, vanquished, subdued, and taken prisoner.
Thanks, Percy, for thy news with all my heart. What was he took him prisoner in the field?
Esquire, my lord, John Copland is his name, whom since he's entreated by her majesty, denies to make surrender of his prize to any but unto your grace alone, whereat the queen is grievously displeased.
Well then, we'll have a pursuivant dispatched to summon Copeland hither out of hand, and with him he shall bring his prisoner king.
The queen, my lord, herself by this at sea, and purposes as soon as one will serve to land at Calais and to visit you.
She shall be welcome, and to wait her coming, I'll pitch my tent near to the sandy shore.
Enter a captain.
The burgess of Calais, mighty king, hath by a council willing. Oh, sorry, that's the captain.
The burgess of Calais, mighty king, hath by a council willingly decreed to yield the town and council to your hands, upon condition it will please your grace to grant them benefit of life and goods.
They will so. Then belike they may command, dispose, elect, and govern as they list. No, sirrah, tell them since they did refuse our princely clemency at first proclaimed, they shall not have it now, although they would. Will accept of naught but fire and sword, except within these 2 days 6 of them that are the wealthiest merchants in the town come naked, all but for their linen shirts, with each a halter hanged about his neck, and prostrate yield themselves upon their knees to be afflicted, hanged, or what I please, and so you may inform their masterships.
While this it is to trust a broken staff, had we not been persuaded Jean our king would with his army have relieved the town, We had not stood upon defiance, as but now this past that no man can recall, and better some to go to wrath than all.
Exit. Enter Charles of Normandy and Villiers.
Charles.
Charles, which is the Prince Charles. Okay, I wonder, Villiers, thou shouldst importune me for one that is our deadly enemy.
Not for his sake, my gracious Lord, so much as am I become an earnest advocate as that, thereby my ransom will be quit. Charles.
Page
83. Thy ransom, man, midway down.
thy ransom man. Why needst thou talk of that? Art thou not free? And art not all occasions that happen for advantage of our foes to be accepted of and stood upon?
No good, my lord, except the same be just. For profit must with honor be commixed, or else our actions are but scandalous. But letting pass these intricate objections, will please your highness to subscribe or no?
Villiers, I will not nor cannot do it. Salisbury shall not have his will so much to claim a passport how it pleases himself.
Why then I know the extremity, my lord. I must return to prison whence I came.
Return? I hope thou wilt not. What bird that hath escaped the fowler's gin will not beware how she's ensnared again? Or what is he so senseless and secure that, having hardly passed a dangerous gulf, will put himself in peril there again?
Ah, but it's my oath, my gracious lord, which I in conscience may not violate, or else the kingdom should not draw me hence.
Thine oath? What that doth bind thee to abide. Hast thou not sworn obedience to thy prince?
In all things that uprightly he commands, but either to persuade or threaten me, not to perform the covenant of my word in lawlessness, and I need not to obey.
Why is it lawful for a man to kill and not to break a promise with his foe?
To kill, my lord, when war is once proclaimed, so that our quarrel be for wrong received, no doubt is lawful permitted us. But in an oath we must be well advised how we do swear, and when we once have sworn not to infringe it, for we die therefore. Therefore, my lord, as willingly I return, as if I were to fly to paradise.
Stay, my Villiers, thy honorable mind deserves to be eternally admired. Thy suit shall be no longer less deferred. Give me the paper, I'll subscribe to it. And wheretofore I love thee as Villiers, hereafter I'll embrace thee as myself. Stay, and be still in favor with thy lord.
I humbly thank you, your grace. I must dispatch and send this passport first unto the earl, and then I will attend your highness's pleasure.
Do so, Villiers, and Charles, when he hath need, be such his soldiers howsoe'er he speed.
Exit Villiers, enter King John.
Come, Charles, and arm thee. Edward is entrapped. The Prince of Wales is fallen into our hands, and we have compassed him. He cannot escape.
But will your highness fight today?
What else, my son? He's scarce 8,000 strong, and we are 70,000 at least.
I have a prophecy, my gracious lord, wherein is written what success is like to happen us in this outrageous war. It was delivered me at Cressersfield by one that is an aged hermit there. When feathered fowl shall make thine army tremble, and flint stones rise and break the battle ray, then think on him that doth not now dissemble, for that shall be the hapless dreadful day. Yet in the end thy foot thou shalt advance as far in England as thy foe in France.
By this, it seems we shall be fortunate, for as it is impossible that stones should ever rise and break the battle ray, or airy fowl make men in arms to quake, so is it like we shall not be subdued. Or say this might be true, yet in the end, since he doth promise, we shall drive him hence, and forage their country as they have done ours. By this revenge, that losses will seem the less, but all our frivolous fancies, toys, and dreams, once we are sure we have ensnared the son, catch we the father after how we can.
Exeunt. Enter Prince Edward, Audley, and others.
Audley, the arms of death embrace us round, and comfort have we none, save that to die we pay sour earnest for a sweeter life. At Cressy Field, our clouds of warlike smoke choked up those French mouths and dissevered them. But now their multitudes of millions hide, masking as 'twere the beauteous burning sun, leaving no hope to us but sullen dark and eyeless terror of all ending night.
This sudden, mighty, and expedient head that they have made, fair prince, is wonderful. Before us, in the valley, lies the king, vantaged with all that heaven and earth can provide, can yield. His party stronger, battled than our whole. His son, the braving Duke of Normandy, hath trimmed the mountain on our right hand up in shining plate, and now the aspiring hill shows like a silver quarry or an orb, aloft the which the banners, bannerets, and new replenished pendants cuff the air and beat the winds that for their gaudiness struggles to kiss them on their left handles. Philip the younger, issue of the king, courting the other hill in such array that all his gilded upright pikes do seem straight trees of gold, the pennants leaves, and their device of antique heraldry quartered in colors seem sundry fruits, making it the orchard of the Hesperides. Behind us too the hill doth bear his height, for like a half moon opening but one way, it rounds us in. There at our backs are lodged the fatal crossbows, and the battle there is governed by the rough Chatillon. Then thus it stands, the Valerie for our fight. The king binds in, and the hills on either hand are proudly royalized by his sons. And on the hills behind stands certain death in pay and service with Chatillon.
Death's name is much more mighty than his deeds. Thy parceling his power hath made it more. As many sands as these my hands can hold are but the handful of so many sands. Then all the world, and call it but a power, easily ta'en up and quickly thrown away. But what if I stand to count them sand by sand? The number would confound my memory and make 1,000 millions of a task, which briefly is no more indeed than one. These quarters, squadrons, and these regiments, before, behind us, and on either hand, are but a power. When we name a man, his hand, his foot, his head hath several strengths, and being all but one self-instant strength, why all this many Audley is but one, and we can call it all but one man's strength. He that hath far to go tells it by miles. If he should tell the steps, it kills his heart. The drops are infinite that make a flood, and yet thou knowest we call it but a rain. There is but one France, one king of France. That France hath no more kings, and that same king hath but the puissant legion of one king? And we have one, then apprehend no odds, for 1 to 1 is fair equality.
Enter an herald from King John.
What tidings, messenger? Be plain and brief.
The King of France.
I'm doing it. The King of France, my sovereign lord and master, greets by me his foe, the Prince of Wales. If thou call forth 100 men of name, of lords, knights, esquires, and English gentlemen, and with thyself and those kneel at his feet, he straight will fold his bloody collars up, and ransom shall redeem lives forfeited. If not, this day shall drink more English blood than e'er was buried in our British earth. What is the answer to his preferred mercy?
This heaven that covers France contains the mercy that draws from me submissive orisons. That such base breath should vanish from my lips to urge the plea of mercy to a man, the Lord forbid. Return and tell the king my tongue is made of steel, and it shall beg my mercy on his coward burgonet. Tell him my colors are as red as his, my men as bold, our English arms as strong. Return him my defiance in his face.
I go.
What,
Another.
what news with thee?
The Duke of Normandy, my lord and master, pitying thy youth, is so engirt with peril. By me hath sent the nimble jointed Janet, as swift as ever yet thou didst bestride, and therewithal he counsels thee to fly, else death himself hath sworn that thou shalt die.
Back with the beast unto the beast that sent him. Tell him I cannot sit a coward's horse. Bid him today bestride the jade himself, for I will stain my horse quite o'er with blood, and double gild my spurs, but I will catch him. So tell the capering boy, and get thee gone.
Enter another.
Edward of Wales, Philip the second son, to the most mighty Christian king of France, seeing thy body's living date expired, all full of charity and Christian love, commends this book full fraught with prayers to thy fair hand and for thy of life, entreats thee that thou meditate therein, and arm thy soul for her long journey towards. Thus have I done his bidding and returned.
Herald of Philip, greet thy lord from me. All good that he can send, I can receive. But thinkest thou not the unadvised boy hath wronged himself in thus far tendering me? Happily he cannot pray without the book. I think him no divine extemporal. Then render back the commonplace of prayer, to do himself good in adversity. Besides, he knows not my sin's quality, and therefore knows no prayers for my avail. Ere night, his prayer may be to pray to God, to put it in my heart to hear his prayer. So tell the courtly wanton, and be gone.
I go.
How confident their strength and number makes them. Now, Audley, sound those silver wings of thine, and let those milk-white messengers of time show thy time's learning in this dangerous time. Thyself art busy and bit with many broils, and stratagems forepassed with iron pens are texted in thine honorable face. Thou art a married man in this distress, but danger woos me as a blushing maid. Teach me an answer to this perilous time.
To die is all as common as to live. The one is choice, the other holds in chase. For from the instant we begin to live, we do pursue and hunt the time to die. First bud we, then we blow, and after seed, then presently we fall, and as a shade follows the body, so we follow death. If then we hunt for death, why do we fear it? If we fear it, why do we follow it? But if we do fear, how can we shun it? If we do fear, with fear we do but aid the thing we fear to seize on us the sooner. If we fear not, then no resolved proffer can overthrow the limit of our fate. For whether ripe or rotten, drop we shall. So we do draw the lottery of our doom.
Ah, good old man, 1,000,000 armors these words of thine have buckled on my back. Ah, what an idiot thou hast made of life, to seek the thing it fears, and how disgraced the imperial victory of murdering death, since all the lives his conquering arrows strike seek him, and he not them, to shame his glory. I will not give a penny for a life, nor half a halfpenny to shun grim death. Since for to live is but to seek to die, and dying but beginning of new life, let come the hour when he that rules it will. To live or die, I hold indifferent.
Exeunt. Enter King John and Charles.
A sudden darkness hath defaced the sky, The winds are crept into their caves for fear. The leaves move not. The world is hushed and still. The birds cease singing, and the wandering brooks murmur no wonted greeting to their shores. Silence attends some wonder and expecteth that heaven should pronounce some prophecy. Where or from whom proceeds this silence, Charles?
Our men with open mouths and staring eyes look on each other as they did attend each other's words, and yet no creature speaks. A tongue-tied fear hath made a midnight hour, and speeches sleep through all the waking regions.
But now the pompous sun in all his pride looked through his golden coach upon the world, and on a sudden hath he hid himself, that now the under earth is as a grave, dark, deadly, silent, and uncomfortable. Hark, what a deadly outcry do I hear!
Here comes my brother Philip.
All dismayed, what fearful words are those thy looks presage?
A flight, a flight.
Coward, what flight? Thou liest, there needs no flight.
Flight.
Awake thy craven powers, and tell on the substance of that very fear indeed, which is so ghastly printed in thy face. What is the matter?
A flight of ugly ravens do croak and hover o'er our soldiers' heads, and keep in triangles and cornered squares. Right as our forces are embattled with their approach, there came the sudden fog which now hath hid the airy flower of heaven, and made a noon of night unnatural upon the quaking and dismayed world. In brief, our soldiers have let fall their arms and stand like metamorphosed images, bloodless and pale, one gazing on another.
I call to mind the prophecy that I must give no entrance to a fear. Return and hearten up these yielding souls. Tell them the ravens, seeing them in arms, so many fair against a famished few, come but to dine upon their handiwork, and prey upon the carrion that they kill. For when we see a horse laid down to die, although not dead, the ravenous birds sit watching the departure of his life. Even so, these ravens for the carcasses of those poor English that are marked to die hover about, and if they cry to us, 'tis but for meat that we must kill for them. Away and comfort up my soldiers, and sound the trumpets, and at once dispatch this little busyness of a silly fraud.
Exit, Prince. Enter noise. Another noise. Salisbury brought in by a French captain.
Behold, my liege.
Behold, my liege, this night and 40 more, of whom the better part we are slain and fled, with all endeavor sought to break our ranks and make their way to the encompassed prince. Dispose of him as please your majesty.
Go, and the next bow soldier that thou seest, his grace sit with his body presently. Here I do hold a tree in France too good to be the gallows of an English thief.
But Kitty, you're also Salisbury.
Oh, my lord of Normandy, I have your pass and warrant for my safety through this land.
Villiers procured it for thee, did he not?
He did.
And it is current. Thou shalt freely pass.
I freely to the gallows to be hanged without denial or impediment. Away with him.
I hope your highness will not so disgrace me and dash the virtue of my seal at arms. He hath my never broken name to show, charactered with this princely hand of mine, and rather let me leave to be a prince than break the stable verdict of a prince. I do beseech you, let him pass in quiet.
Thou and thy word lie both in my command. What canst thou promise that I cannot break? Which of these twain is greater infamy, to disobey thy father or thyself? Thy word nor no man's may exceed his power, nor that same man doth never break his word. That keeps it to the most utmost of his power. The breach of faith dwells in the soul's consent, which if thyself without consent do break, thou art not charged with the breach of faith. Go hang him, for thy license lies in me, and my constraint stands the excuse for thee.
What? Am I not a soldier in my word? Then arms adieu, and let them fight that list. Shall I not give my girdle from my waist, but with a guardian I shall be controlled to say I may not give my things away upon my soul? Had Edward, Prince of Wales, engaged his word, writ down his noble hand for all your knights to pass his father's land, the royal king to grace his warlike son would not alone safe conduct give to them, but with all bounty feasted them and theirs.
Whilst thou want precedence, then be it so. Say, Englishman, of what degree thou art?
An earl in England, though a prisoner here, and those that know me call me Salisbury.
Then, Salisbury, say whether thou art bound.
To Calais, where my liege King Edward is.
To Calais, Salisbury, then, to Calais pack, and bid the king prepare a noble grave, to put his princely son Black Edward in. And as thou travellest westward from this place, some 2 leagues hence, there is a lofty hill, whose top seems topless, for the embracing sky doth hide his high head in her azure bosom, upon whose tall top, when thy foot attains, look back upon the humble vale beneath, humble of late, but now made proud with arms. And thence behold the wretched Prince of Wales, hooped with a bond of iron round about, after which sight to chalice, spur amain, and say the prince was smothered and not slain, and tell the king this is not all his ill, for I will greet him ere he thinks I will. Away, be gone, the smoke but of our shot will choke our foes, though bullets hit them not.
Exit. Alarum. Enter Prince Edward and Artois.
How fares your grace? Are you not shot, my lord?
No, dear Artois, but choked with dust and smoke, and stepped aside for breath and fresher air.
Breathe then, and to it again. The amazed French are quite distracted with gazing on the crows, and were our quivers full of shafts again, your grace should see a glorious day of this. Oh, for more arrows, lord, that's our want.
Courage, Artois, a fig for feathered shafts, when feathered fowls do bandy on our side. What need we fight and sweat and keep a coil, when railing crows outscold our adversaries? Up, up, Artois! The ground itself is armed, fire containing flint. Command our bows to hurl away their pretty colored hue, and to it with stones. Away, Artois, away! My soul doth prophesy we win the day.
Exeunt. Alarum. Enter King John.
Our multitudes are in themselves confounded, dismayed and distraught. Swift starting fear hath buzzed a cold dismay through all our army, and every petty disadvantage prompts the fear-possessed abject soul to fly. Myself, whose spirit is steeled to their dull lead, what with recalling of the prophecy, and that our native stones from English arms rebel against us, find myself attainted with strong surprise of weak and yielding fear.
Enter Charles.
Fly, father, fly! The French to kill the French. Some that would stand like drive at some that fly. Our drums strike nothing but discouragement. Our trumpets sound dishonor and retire. The spirit of fear that feareth not, but death cowardly works confusion on itself.
Enter Philip.
Look at your eyes and see not this day's shame. An army beat an army. One poor David hath with a stone foiled 20 stout Goliaths. And 20 naked struggles with small flints have driven back a Hussar host of men, arrayed and fenced in all accompaniments.
Mordieu, they quait us and kill us up. No less than 40,000 wicked elders have 40 lean slaves this day stoned to death.
Oh, that I were some other countryman. This day hath set derision on the French. and all the world will blurt and scorn at us.
What is there no hope left?
No hope but death to bury up our shame.
Make up once more with me the 20th part of those that live, are men enow to quail, the feeble handful on the adverse part.
Then charge again. If heaven be not opposed, we cannot lose the day.
On away.
Exeunt. Enter Audley wounded and rescued by two squires.
How fair, my lord.
Even as a man may do, that dines at such a bloody feast as this.
I hope, my lord, that is no mortal scare.
No matter if it be, the count is cast, and in the worst ends but a mortal end, and in the worst ends but a mortal man. Good friends, convey me to the princely Edward, that in the crimson bravery of my bloods I may become him with saluting him. I'll smile and tell him that this open scar doth end the harvest of his Audley's war.
Exit. Enter Prince Edward, King John, Charles, and all the ensigns spread. Retreat sounded.
Now, John in France, and lately John of France, thy bloody ensigns are my captive colours. And you, high vaunting Charles of Normandy, that once today sent me a horse to fly, are now the subjects of my clemency. Fie, lords, is it not a shame that English boys, whose early days are yet not worth a beard, should in the bosom of your kingdom thus, 1 against 20, beat you up together?
Thy fortune, not thy force, hath conquered us.
An argument that heaven aids the right. See, Artois doth bring with him along the late good counsel giver to my soul. Welcome, Artois, and welcome Philip too, who now of you or I have need to pray. Now is the proverb verified in you, too bright a morning breeds a lowering day.
Sound trumpets. Enter Audley.
Say, what grim discouragement comes here? Alas, what 1,000 armed men of France have writ that note of death in Audley's face? Speak, thou that wooest death with thy careless smile, and lookest so merrily upon thy grave, as if thou wert enamored on thine end. What hungry sword hath so bereaved thy face, and lopped a true friend from thy loving soul?
O Prince, thy sweet bemoaning speech to me is as a mournful knell to one dead sick.
Dear Audley, if my tongue ring out thy end, my arm shall be the grave. What may I do to win thy life, or to revenge thy death? If thou wilt drink the blood of captive kings, or that it were restorative, command a heath of king's blood, and I'll drink to thee. If honor may dispense for thee with death, the never-dying honor of this day share wholly, Audley, to thyself, and live.
Victorious Prince, that thou art so behold a Caesar's fame in king's captivity. If I could hold dim death but at a bay till I did see my liege, thy royal father, my soul should yield the castle of my flesh, this mangled tribute with all willingness. We to darkness, consummation, death, and woes.
Dearly bold man, thy soul is all too proud to yield her city for one little breach, should be divorced from her earthly spouse by the soft temper of a Frenchman's sword? Lo, to repair thy life, I give to thee 3,000 marks a year in English land.
I take thy gift to pay the debts I owe. These two poor esquires redeemed me from the French with lusty and dear hazard of their lives. What thou hast given me, I give to them. And as thou hast me, Prince, lay thy consent to this bequest in my last testament.
Renowned Audley, live, and have from me this gift twice double to these esquires and thee. But live or die, what thou hast given away, to these and theirs shall lasting freedom stay. Come, gentlemen, I will see my friend bestowed within an easy litter. Then we'll march proudly toward Calais with triumphant pace unto my royal father, and there bring the tribute of my wars, fair France his king.
Exit. Enter 6 citizens in their shirts, barefoot with halters about their necks. Enter King Edward, Queen Philippa, Derby, soldiers.
Edward.
That's Angus.
What happened to Edward?
I do apologize. I was getting sidetracked. No more, Queen Philip. Pacify yourself. Copeland, except he can excuse his fault, shall find displeasure written in our looks. And now, unto this proud resisting town, soldiers, assault. I will no longer stay to be deluded by their false delays. Put all to sword and make the spoil your own.
Mercy,
Mercy,
King.
King Edward. Mercy,
Mercy, gracious Lord.
Contemptuous villains, call ye now for truce? Mine ears are stopped against your bootless cries. Sound drums, alarm, draw threatening swords.
Ah, noble prince.
Take pity on this town, and hear us, mighty King. We claim the promise that your highness made, that 2 days' respite is not yet expired, and we are coming with willingness to bear what torturing, death, or punishment you please, so that the trembling multitude be saved.
My promise, well, I do confess as much, but I require the chiefest citizens and men of most account that should submit. You peradventure are but servile grooms, or some felonious robbers on the scene, whom apprehended law would execute, albeit severity lay dead in us. No, no, you cannot overreach us thus.
Son, true Lord, that in the western fall beholds us now, low brought through misery, did in the orient, purple in the moor, salute our coming forth when you were known, or may our portion be with damned fiends.
If it be so, then let our covenant stand. We take possession of the town in peace, but for yourselves look you for no remorse. But as imperial justice hath decreed, your bodies shall be dragged about these walls, and after feel the stroke of quartering steel. This is your doom. Go, soldiers, see it done.
Be more mild unto these yielding men. It is a glorious thing to establish peace, and kings approach the nearest unto God by giving life and safety unto men. As thou intendest to be king of France, so let her people live to call thee king. For what the sword cuts down or fire hath spoiled is held in reputation, none of ours.
Though experience teach us this is true, that peaceful quietness brings most delight, when most of all abuses are controlled, yet insomuch it shall be known that we as well can muster our affections, as conquer other by the dint of sword. Philip, prevail. We yield to thy request. These men shall live to boast of clemency, and tyranny shall strike terror to thyself.
Long live your highness, happy be your reign.
Go get you hence, return unto the town, and if this kindness have deserved your love, learn then to reverence Edward as your king. Now might we hear of our affairs abroad, we would till gloomy winter, where o'erspent dispose our men in garrison a while. But who comes here?
Enter Copeland and King David.
Copeland, my lord, and David, King of Scots.
Is this the proud, presumptuous esquire of the north, that would not yield his prisoner to my queen?
I am, my liege, a northern esquire indeed, but neither proud nor insolent, I trust.
What moved thee then to be so obstinate, to contradict our royal queen's desire?
No willful disobedience, mighty lord, but my desert and public law at arms, I took the king myself in single flight, and like a soldier would be loath to lose the least predominance that I had won. And Copeland, straight upon your highness' charge, is come to France, and with a lowly mind doth veil the bonnet of his victory. Received, red lord, the custom of my fraud, the wealthy tribute of my laboring hands, which should long since have been surrendered up had but your gracious self been there in place.
But Copland thou didst scorn the king's command, neglecting a commission in his name.
His name I reverence, but his person more. His name shall keep me in allegiance still, but to his person I will bend my knee. I can't hear you, king.
I pray thee, Philip, let displeasure pass. This man doth please me, and I like his words. For what is he that will attempt great deeds and lose the glory that ensues the fame? All rivers have recourse unto the sea, and Copeland's faith relation to his king. Kneel therefore down and rise, King Edward's knight, and to maintain thy state, I freely give 500 marks a year to thee and thine. Welcome, Lord Salisbury. What news from Brittany?
This mighty king, the country we have won, and Charles de Montfort, regent of that place, presents your highness with this coronet, protesting true allegiance to your grace.
We thank thee for this, thy service, valiant Earl. Challenge our favor, for we owe it thee.
But now, my lord, as this is joyful news, so must my voice be tragical again, and I must sing of doleful accidents.
But have our men the overthrow at Poitiers, or is our son best with too much odds?
He was, my lord, and as my worthless self, with 40 other cervical knights, understaffed conduct of the Dauphin's seal, did travail that way, finding him distressed, a troop of lances met us on the way, surprised and brought us prisoners to the king, who, proud of this and eager of revenge, commanded straight to cut of all our heads. And surely we had died, but that the Duke, more full of honor than his angry sire, procured our quick deliverance from thence. But ere we went, salute your king, quoth he, bid him provide a funeral for his son. Today our swords shall cut his thread of life, and sooner than he thinks will be with him. To quit him those displeasures he hath done. This said we passed, not daring to reply. Our hearts were dead, our looks diffused and wan. Wandering, at last we climbed unto a hill, from whence, although our grief were much before, yet now to see the occasion with our eyes did thrice so much increase our heaviness. For there, my lord, oh, there we did descry, down in the valley how both armies lay. The French had cast their trenches like a ring, and every barricado's open front was thick embossed with brazen ordnance. Here stood a battle of 10,000 horse, there twice as many pikes in quadrant wise, here crossbows and deadly wounding darts, and in the midst, like to a slender point, within the compass of the horizon, as for a rising bubble in the sea, a hassle wand amidst a wood of pines. Or as a bear fast changed unto a stake, stood famous Edward, still expecting when those dogs of France would fasten on his flesh. Anon the death procuring knell begins. Off go the cannons that with trembling noise did shake the very mountain where they stood. Then sound the trumpets clangor in the air. The battles join, and when we could no more discern the difference betwixt friend and foe, so intricate the dark confusion was, away we turned our watery eyes with sighs. as black as powder fuming into smoke, and thus I fear, unhappy have I told the most untimely tale of Edward's fall.
Annie, is this my welcome into France? Is this the comfort that I look to have when I should meet with my beloved son? Sweet Ned, I would thy mother in the sea had been prevented of this mortal grief.
Content thee, Philip. 'Tis not tears will serve to call him back if he be taken hence. Comfort thyself, as I do, gentle queen, with hope of sharp, unheard of, dire revenge. He bids me to provide his funeral, and so I will. But all the peers in France shall mourners be and weep out bloody tears until their empty veins be dry and sere. The pillars of his hearse shall be his bones, the mould that covers him their city ashes, his knell the groaning cries of dying men, and in the stead of tapers on his tomb, 150 towers shall burning blaze while we bewail our valiant son's decease.
After a flourish sounded within, enter an herald. Rejoice, my lord! Ascend the imperial throne, the mighty and redoubted Prince of Wales, great servitor to bloody Mars in arms, the Frenchman's terror and his country's fame, triumphant rideth like a Roman peer, and lowly at his stirrup comes afoot King John of France, together with his son in captive bounds, whose diadem he brings to crown thee with, and to proclaim thee king.
Away with mourning, Philip. Wipe thine eyes, sound trumpets, and welcome in Plantagenet.
Enter Prince Edward, King John, Philip, Audley, Artois.
As things long lost when they are found again, so doth my son rejoice his father's heart, for whom even now my soul was much perplexed.
Be this a token to express my joy, for inward passions will not let me speak.
My gracious father, here receive the gift, this wreath of conquest and reward of war, got with as mickle peril of our lives as e'er was thing of price before this day. Install your highness in your proper right, and herewithal I render to your hands these prisoners, chief occasion of our strife.
So, John of France, I see you keep your word. You promised to be sooner with ourselves than we did think for, and 'tis so indeed. But had you done as first as now you do, how many civil towns had stood untouched that now are turned to ragged heaps of stones? How many people's lives mightst thou have saved that are untimely sunk into their graves?
Edward, we count not things irrevocable. Tell me what ransom thou requirest to have.
Thy ransom, John, hereafter shall be known. But first to England thou must cross the seas to see what entertainment it affords. Howe'er it falls, it cannot be so bad as ours hath been since we arrived in France.
Accursed man, of this I was foretold, but did misconster what the prophet told.
Now, father, this petition Edward makes to thee, whose grace hath been his strongest shield, that as thy pleasure chose me for the man to be the instrument to show thy power, so thou wilt grant that many princes more, bred and brought up within that little isle, may still be famous for like victories. And for my part, the bloody scars I bear, the weary nights that I have watched and fielded, the dangerous conflicts I have often had, the fearful menaces were proffered me, the heat and cold, and what else might displease, I wish were now redoubled 20-fold, so that hereafter ages, when they read the painful traffic of my tender youth, might thereby be inflamed with such resolve, as not the territories of France alone, but likewise Spain, Turkey, and what countries else that justly would provoke fair England's ire, might at their presence tremble and retire.
Here, English lords, we do proclaim a rest, an intercession of our painful arms. Sheath up your swords, refresh your weary limbs, peruse your spoils, and after we have breathed a day or two within this haven town, God willing, then for England we'll be shipped, where in a happy hour I trust we shall arrive. 3 kings, 2 princes, and a queen.
Fini. Well done, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. From all over the place, from Angus in London to Sri in India and Jennifer in Texas. You know, we got people all over contributing to telling this bit of English history, which is, I mean, I don't know. I there's parts of it that really feel very Shakespeare to me. But what do people think? How do you feel?
I had the sense, Paul, in the first half, I felt, is this Shakespeare? I kept thinking, this doesn't feel like Shakespeare. And then later on, to the next half, it started to feel like a Shakespeare play I was in. And I don't know that. I don't know why, because this is the first time I've heard it. So I can't analyze my impression. Yeah. But is there any question as to who wrote this?
Well, see, the thing is, for centuries, it's been sort of like people have thought maybe this was by Shakespeare, but it was not included in the first folio. And one of the reasons is that because I think all of the stuff, the portrayal of the Scots is less than, shall we say, sympathetic.
Yes. They got mad about it. They got really angry.
Well, it wasn't that they would get mad. It's like you didn't want to get the head Scot mad about it because the head Scot was now the King of England, King James. You know, that's the great way to unite Scotland and England without fighting, is have the Scotland king become the English king. So
the collaboration.
I would say from the reading,
and other writers.
I was thinking about how Shakespeare wrote all these plays, these history plays of these continuing wars. And I wonder if it ever crossed his mind that they were the same people. Like in one life, they were the French, in another life, they were the English. Yeah.
I have to say, from reading the play out loud, there are bits of it that work nice and easy, which is what I assume with Shakespeare, because when you're reading Shakespeare cold and putting it in, it tends to flow and it carries you along with it. And there are bits of it then that clunk. So
like Timon of Athens. Yeah.
There are bits of it that are difficult to do because the language is not right. Allusions just don't make sense. And the way the rhyme has worked, it's just hard work. This is Edward III as a role is a hard one to play because a lot of it is really hard work, and I don't think a lot of it's Shakespeare.
It was a funny feeling I had.
Well, I also had a hard time, and that's only because I'm not really familiar with the play, of knowing always what everybody's agendas were, you know, and that's just
it's difficult. I mean, it's clearly set up that Edward's getting totally obsessed with the Duchess.
That's a fun part, actually. That's the comic relief of it.
That's good, but that is a central core of it, and then it sort of drifts away and it gets forgotten about. And then it comes back again.
I love the scene though with the guy trying to write the poem, and
that's
a line and a half. I mean, how much did he think he was going to write? He was talking to him the entire time.
That's right.
And then he just criticizes every word. That seemed to me very Shakespeare. That kind of humor there.
That's right. Because that flows. That scene flows really nicely. It's good. Yeah. That was great working with you, Andrew.
That's a comic.
That festers smell far worse than weeds. That sounds Shakespeare.
That's right from one of his sonnets. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why people one of the pieces of evidence they used to link it to Shakespeare is
Yeah.
the line is right from one of his.
And also, I think the concept of prophecy, right? Like we have in Macbeth, there is speeches foretelling the outcome of a war. In Caesar, in Julius Caesar, there's a prophecy of him being assassinated before the Ides of March thing, and there's also prophecy here, right? So there's that Shakespearean trope that kind of comes up.
Yeah,
So maybe that's an evidence. Maybe he was involved in
Sri,
this.
where are you?
I'm from Chennai, India, actually.
I mean, you're actually there now.
Yeah, it's early morning 5 when I started the play. Now it's like 7:30. So
Brilliant. We're getting truly international now. That's absolutely
yes.
super.
Are
Welcome.
those the Himalayas in the background?
Sorry?
sorry.
Are those the Himalayas?
No, that's-
No. I did go to the Himalayas a few months ago, but so I was inspired to make this virtual background based on that. So, but it's just in my room. I'm just using a virtual thing.
Brilliant. Great to work with you. That was super.
yes,
Likewise.
it's great. Yes, thank you. Thank you all. It's great having, Andrew, this was your first instant Shakespeare. So thank you so much for doing
Thank
it.
you. I
Great
loved it. It was
job.
so much fun. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
I apologize for just sort of the general sort of not knowing where things were, and I'm for not letting people know about stuff in a timely fashion, and maybe confusing a few things and sort of double assigning parts.
You
So
have to get used
sorry
to
about that.
Paul. He's
Yeah.
busy delivering mail so often that we tend to fit in. I've been working with Paul for 24 years now.
Yeah.
24
Wow.
years.
24
You're a
years.
founding member.
When he started the Instant Shakespeare in the Applause bookstore up on the Upper West Side. And I sort of hang in there because it's great fun working with him and all these great people he brings in. It's a joy. And it's great to see you again, Michael. I haven't seen you for quite some time.
Good to see you. And what time is it there now? 3 a.m.?
It's about 3:15.
Wow. All right.
London.
So anyways, actually, we're still live streaming. So if anybody's got any other sorts of things, I mean, this is also like Henry V. I mean, we know about sort of Agincourt because we know Henry V so well, but this was even sort of bigger ones. And the whole
That's
thing
right.
was,
Yeah.
at least they mention arrows, I mean, bows and arrows in this play, which they don't do in Henry V.
No, I know.
Because that was the whole thing, is that Edward used this great innovation of the longbow to defeat the French.
That's
And
right.
then his grandson does it again the same way with the longbow to defeat the French.
Yeah, if you read about some of these guys, every one of them, it claims that they increased military, they made new bounds of discoveries in military.
Yeah.
The Henrys, they say the same thing about the Henrys.
That's right. But
Right,
the Olivier Henry V, that wonderful scene where they fired the longbows and you get the great drift,
Yeah.
the dark drift flying across, and that was it. They were lethal. I mean, those things were absolutely lethal. Even if they fired them up into the air just to put them forward, if one of those hit you, sorry guys.
It's really a great anti-war play. The soldier makes that very clear.
But you really get the feeling of this, that there's all these other relationships going on, which are secondary, but very, very important to what the king's trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got his passions, which are distracting him and they're leading him on. And it's not a very forgiving play.
You're talking about Henry
letting
V now.
his son
You
die
talking about Henry? Are you talking about Edward or Henry now?
Edward.
Edward, right?
He's
Okay.
letting his son die if he can't rescue himself.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And his sort of excuse, oh, well, I've got other sons. It's like, yeah, we know all about your other sons. That's how we
Gonna
get
grow
the
old one
Wars of
day.
the Roses.
Oh,
I've got other sons to take care of me, you know.
Yeah.
I was reading something the other day, and I can't remember where it was, where the Duchess or the ruler stuck her ass out the battlement where they were trying to threaten her and saying they were going to kill her sons and kill her children. And she stuck her ass out the battlement and said, I can produce more. Go ahead, do it.
Which one was this?
I don't remember where I read it, and it was really quite discouraging. I thought, well, that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
You know. But it's a problem. But who was supposed to be also involved in writing this, Paul?
Well, I mean, they're not sure. It was anonymous. It was published anonymously, and it was never sort of included in the folio.
Yeah.
I think because obviously all of the anti-Scottish stuff in it.
Yeah.
But
Why did they think it was Shakespeare as opposed to anybody else?
well, there are some things that do sort of, I mean, there are parts of it that feel like it, and this probably would have been done around the same time as like his very earliest plays, like Henry VI. I mean, the Henry VI plays, which were all, and which now a lot of people feel may have been collaborations, that they're now sort of some editions are crediting Marlowe with parts of it and things like that. I mean, because that's the thing, is that it was like the histories were popular, so these guys were like churning them out, and I think they probably worked, especially as a young writer before he was established as Shakespeare. You know, I mean, you'd work with other people the way like screenwriters do today.
So it's an earlier play, you're thinking?
Yeah, that is because it was. I mean, it was published in the 1590s, and so that's where most people sort of link it to in terms of that.
Yeah, but you
What
also
about timing, the same thing?
You know, you were asking Jennifer why they wouldn't put it in the first folio,
Right.
because it does attack the Scots. James
Right.
the First of England was the James the Sixth of Scotland, and
Right.
they would certainly not want to offend the king. So this was an easy one. Just forget about it. It was only partly him. One suspects that as he was getting involved in theatre in London, his early work would have been collaborative. Then he established a name for himself, and things went on. And then towards the end of his time in England, in London, he started collaborating again because, you know, he got bored. Yeah.
So do you think in Timon he did it later on? Timon was the end of his career.
Yeah. Timon,
Because he doesn't even take the time eating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 friends, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Lord.
No, and you look at towards the end, what was he really trying to do? They just signed up for a 20-year lease on the indoor theatre, and Shakespeare was above all. He was a technical man. He understood theatre, and he knew what you had to do with theatre. And he's sitting there in what, 16, 12, 13, 14, whatever.
Yeah.
And they were bugging him for a new play. So he produced Cymbeline, and that's essentially Shakespeare's greatest hits. He took all the bits that worked well in previous plays and stuck them all together and did Cymbeline. He
wrote it stoned out of his mind.
Yeah, it was brilliant. He did all the bits and pieces. But what he was really interested in doing was writing The Tempest, which was a play that he wrote specifically for an indoor theatre for the Blackfriars without groundlings. There was nobody of low class in the audience. It was written for an upper class audience.
Interesting.
For the indoor theatre.
Wow.
And you look at the structure of the play, and you look at what he was trying to do. He was using the magic of lights that he knew, because back in the 1590s, they'd got access to the Blackfriars a couple of times, and they'd done a couple of shows there. So he knew what he could do with lights. And this was something that he was obviously excited about.
So why did he only want it for the rich and the ruling class, that last play? Just for that reason?
He had no option if he wanted to write it for the Blackfriars. The Blackfriars, because it was lit by candles, it cost
a lot of money.
God knows how many thousands to do a show.
Plus the play itself.
Yeah, well, you know, but if you look at the structure of the play, all the plays up till then, when he had peasants or low-class people making fun of nobility, they did it back and forward, and it was a two-way stretch, and they always poked fun at each other. But if you look at the structure of the Tempest, the clowns, the low people, never ever are in contact with the nobility until the very last minute. There's no point in having the low class making fun of the nobility and the nobility making fun of the low class.
But there's more to it than that, even. For me, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add to it. I didn't.
No, carry on, Michael.
I was thinking about if its bookends with Midsummer Night's Dream being early on, and The Tempest being what they say is his last play, where he makes his confession about the muses being his.
That's bullshit.
Why do you think that's bullshit?
He was not writing his last play. The last play is
Simon?
what is it?
Henry VIII.
No. Beyond that, it's the apocryphal one that was brought in. Go forth and let us wend about the time. The one that I've got as a quote. It's the it's later.
Cardenio or no?
Oh, keep going. After Henry VIII.
Oh, Two Noble Kinsmen.
It's the one that's Fletcher and him.
Well, there's two people think it's Fletcher and him on Two Noble Kinsmen and Henry VIII.
That's the one. Two Noble Kinsmen.
That's his latest play? Where was The Tempest in it? It was not even one of his.
Before that. Look, the problem with The Tempest is the other thing that tells you that it was a strange production. When he left the company and moved on, it was never done again. And for quite some time, it was thought The Tempest was not a popular play, and it was never done because it was not a popular play. It was not never done because it was a popular play. It was done because it was written for the indoor theater. And when you're dealing with the indoor theater, they charged 10 times what the groundlings would pay in the Globe. They couldn't afford to go to it and see it. It was written for an audience that was totally different. It was a middle class and merchant class and above audience. And they were not going to come and see the same show 3 times in the space of 2 weeks. So The Tempest was not done very often, simply because you couldn't do it. You would have to do other things and then bring it back 5 or 6 weeks later, and then you could do it and they might come back to see it. But it was forgotten about because it was classed as not a popular play. I'm sure it was very, very popular when it was performed.
A powerful play. It has a very strong message.
Yeah.
No, it's been abused and picked up. They get all this, fantastic stuff about Prospero, but it's all nonsense, because if you look at the play, Prospero, all the ending that people try and put on The Tempest, if you look at, there's a big speech that Prospero has early on where he explains to Miranda why they ended up where they are, how it all happened. And he basically admits right there that he got so obsessed with his books that he forgot about what he was supposed to do. That is, look after the people he was in charge of. And then it becomes, what is he actually playing? And I firmly believe that what it is, Shakespeare at this time was a cult figure. And there were all these young guys who were hanging around, the younger sons and all the rest of them. And what was he getting from them? He's getting them saying, fuck, my dad wants me to marry this bitch. I've never heard of her. I've never seen her. I don't know who she is. She sent me a few pictures. And he began to see that what was going on was that the older families were trying to control what the young people were doing. And if you look at all the way through Shakespeare's plays, he's trying to tell us about how we should react and how we should behave as people in relation to our children and our wives and our families. And he's always trying to show us, Howard Bloom says that Shakespeare invented the human, and I firmly believe that. And what he was doing with The Tempest is he was faced with all these kids and he thought, well, I'm going to do this play because I want to explore what I can do with light, what I can do with this new medium that I've suddenly got control of, which is creating special effects with lights and funny flashing lights. If you've ever seen anything in the Sam Wanamaker Theatre, it's absolutely brilliant. They have chandeliers that come down and they will light them and they will snuck them out at times. People will come on carrying chandeliers. And for the first time, Shakespeare had access not to scenes in the open air with light. He had the ability to create localized lighting, to create special effects with lighting, and that was there. So what is the other message? And if you look at it, I mean, most of the people who do The Tempest nowadays do it as what I call Prospero-centric productions. They're totally focused on the mystical figure. But if you look at the play and actually put it all in, most of the Prospero-centric productions take all the story of his brother and his brother's son and all the rest and demote them. They cut lines out, they throw away scenes and all the rest of it. But what he's really doing there, he's seen that his brother has treated the loss of his son as the loss of a particular a political expediency, somebody that he had lined him up to marry somebody who was important. And what he's trying to do is to convince his brother that this is not right. You've not lost a political tool. You have actually lost your flesh and blood. And that is important. And that's what it really means. And
there's another part.
Sorry, Michael?
I was saying there's more to it that you haven't heard you speak about, and I'm curious, and I don't think it's a gimmick either, and that's why I was talking about as a compliment to Midsummer Night's Dream, is that I don't know if he used special effects in Midsummer Night's Dream or not, but
no, that was. I mean, there are plays where he did. There is a report that the final scene of Othello, the scene, that the idea from that came from the fact that they'd actually done it in the Blackfriars.
I think one of the things, though, he was trying to tell people in The Tempest was through the last line that he actually says about Caliban, this thing of darkness, I acknowledge mine.
Yeah.
He's a double entendre.
No, he's trying to show people that in this, you go back to the Midsummer Night's Dream. The Midsummer Night's Dream is often, when you build up to the comedy show with the rude mechanicals at the end.
Yeah.
But if you look at it throughout, it starts right at the beginning of Midsummer Night's Dream. The father comes in and says, my daughter is not doing what she wants.
It starts with the abduction of the Amazonian.
Yeah, it's control.
Right.
Men have control of women. And for the whole of the play, he's showing how men are treating women.
But he's doing it, but
and then it comes to then it comes to
Titania.
But then it comes to the end where you get the rude mechanicals do their play about Pyramus and Thisbe. And suddenly it becomes, as all the couples are standing watching it, they're shown that what love really means is that you will give your life for the person you love. You won't try and control them. You won't try and tell them what they should do. You will die for them. And that, because everybody, when they do the dream, they end up playing the Rude Mechanical's Pyramus and Thisbe thing as a great big joke and all the rest of it. But I think, when you've got Theseus and Hippolyta, you've got the other two couples sitting there, and the men have been saying, oh, I think you're wonderful, and I think it's great, and I'll die for you. And suddenly they see presented before them that if you really love somebody, you will give your life for them. And that's the rude awakening. And it's very rarely done, because it's nowadays we don't go for that sort of thing. But I think that's what he was saying. And I think that same thing is the care of the children, and the care of what love actually means is also at the heart of The Tempest. In exactly the same way it's the heart of Midsummer Night's Dream.
And also he's freeing of Ariel out of bondage.
Yes.
And he's giving the island and the land back to Caliban, which was
That's
his.
right. Yeah.
And returning the magic that Caliban knew. Caliban's speech about this island is so beautiful.
But you see that
Say
end speech
that
when
he's giving the land back to Caliban.
He cries. Caliban breaks down crying. He talks about how he would go to sleep and he'd wake up. And that whole symbolism of is that he's free again with his land, and he frees Caliban back to his land.
What I'm saying is that he never gives the land to Caliban.
He frees him.
And he's leaving.
There, it's his island.
Anyways, it can be inferred. But anyways, I think we'll just let us at least end the live stream here. And thank you.
First, before you
end
it, did everyone know about the concert this afternoon, which you can see the recording of on YouTube, of the music of the first folio?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.